Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another day of the Vietnamese Championship Series. We're ready to get on in for our first series of the day, which features Cerberus taking on Team 𝘀liche. For our second game, we will be having 𝘀𝗀𝗋 taking on 𝘂𝑏𝑇𝑐. And in the analyst desk with me, I have 𝘀𝗀𝗃 and Tim. 𝘀𝗀𝗃, Tim, how are you gentlemen doing? I think my analyst...
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to get up in the morning, right? And we need some time to gel in, but yeah, doing okay. Didn't oversleep over my alarm at all, and now I'm ready to have the clash between the top team of the tables versus the bottom team of the tables, and I'm all up for it.
What about you, Tim?
I mean, absolutely stoked to be here. I think I hope that the games are closer than the standings might suggest, because at least the second one should be close according to standings. So I hope we have full 6 games, which would be a banger.
Okay, so you mentioned how this is like top of the league versus bottom of the league. Cerberus 4-0, 𝘀liche 0-4, first against 8th. But 𝘀𝗀𝗃, I've got a bit of hope for 𝘀liche. We've seen some good moments from them. We saw them taking 𝘀𝗀𝗋 or having a decent showing against 𝘀𝗀𝗋. Do you think there is any hope for 𝘀liche fans out there that maybe they can take a game of Cerberus?
I mean, there's never no hope, right? I mean, they also took a game of Team Secret, which to their respect is not like the hardest thing to do because they are also down at the bottom of the standings, but they have shown some promise in some positions. I mean, especially 𝘂𝗀𝗃 in the top lane. We know him. He's kind of a star top laner stuck on a bad team, if we can say though. 𝘀𝗋 is also not really a player I would call bad in any regard. And even 𝗁𝗃 has his moments. So there definitely is some hope left for them.
And Tim, I've heard there are rumors that 𝘂𝑠 might be starting for Cerberus, but with 𝘂𝑠 we can never be too sure, can we?
No, we absolutely can. I mean, we finally, before the cast, I looked at him on Leaguepedia, and his favorite champion is Bard, and his playstyle mirrors that. I mean, sometimes he shows up in bot lane, ints it once, and then it disappears again. So maybe we see that once again, and that might give Team 𝘀liche another chance. And I think for Team 𝘀liche, already the good 𝘀𝗀𝗃 talked about it. I think somebody to highlight coming out of the 𝘀𝗀𝗋 series, I think, is 𝘀𝗀𝗃. I think he had 2 really good games. I think he was slow in the second one, but he was one of the main factors they could actually hold up.
Yeah, so, okay, I want to kind of jump on into what matchup we think is going to essentially determine how this series goes. Because in my eyes, 𝘀𝗀𝗃, this is, can 𝗁𝗃 do 𝗁𝗃 things again? And by doing 𝗁𝗃 things, I'm not talking about 𝑽x 𝗁𝗃 things, I'm talking more about the Syndra 𝗁𝗃 things.
I mean, maybe he gets the Syndra again, and maybe he has a pop-off moment. The sad thing is, though, that Syndra is kind of a limited champion, as we might say, because it's not really the champion you can ultimately rely on if it's like your single magic damage source. It's not ideal for you. It also doesn't really scale the best, but if he has a game like he did against Team Secret with the Syndra, there's of course some hope left. And the other matchup maybe is like the top lane. That's really the thing we need to look at, because I mean, we don't even know which top laner is playing for Cerberus, and maybe this is a series where 𝘂𝑠 finally plays again.
And for you, Tim, on this, again, do you think this is a matchup that's going to revolve around mid, or maybe even looking towards that jungle role? We know how good ego can be for Cerberus.
I mean, I think it's around both. I think it's the mid-jungle duo from both teams having to step up. I think from Team 𝘀liche, at least what they showed against 𝘀𝗀𝗋 on Tuesday, I think that 𝘀𝗀𝗃 and 𝗁𝗃 were definitely the playmakers, the ones that kept their team in the game. And I think going up against Yado and ego, it's not going to be easy, and they have to do it again. They have to go toe-to-toe with them. And if they can come out on top, I see a chance for them to win.
Okay. Well, we've got some thoughts. Pigs, or pardon me, drafting phase is not too far away. I believe we are still playing on the same patch as we were yesterday, and this probably means one thing: more Jhin misfortune. 𝘀𝗀𝗃, I'll throw to you. Do you expect to see more Jhin MF, or can we maybe see some of the Aphelios that popped up on the Rift yesterday?
I mean, from the side of Team 𝘀liche, I would definitely expect like the Jhin misfortune style for their AD carry. But there's Artemis, my beloved child, on the other side of the Rift, and he likes to play the Lethal Desire. He likes to play any hyper carry. Like he played Vayne against 𝘀𝗀𝗋 in the first day. He played the Jinx. He played I think he also played their failures. So there's definitely hope that he will pick up more on the exciting stuff on the AD carry side. So I'm all up to see that again, because 𝘀artemis is a very good AD carry, and maybe even the best if he keeps stepping up like he did so far in the winter split.
And Tim, there's no denying how good 𝘀artemis is. Almost definitely the best ADC in the Vietnamese Championship Series. We've seen some Vayne, we've seen a lot of Xayah. Do you think it's going to be 𝘀artemis going back to that Xayah, or can we expect maybe another unique pick from the Cerberus ADC?
No, I think the Xayah is something that is really just dominating all over. I mean, it was hotfixed at patch later. I'm not sure how strong it is on 21, because I haven't actually seen it on 21 too much, but I think it is still very strong, and it just gives you a lot. You have massive wave clear, very good team fighting, you spike extremely early in the game, so I can just see them going for it, and you still don't scale badly. I mean, the item build, of course, doesn't scale as well as you would with crit, but still, you're not used this at mini 30.
One other thing we should probably bring up, maybe, is support roaming, because we've seen a lot of Leona, we've seen a lot of 𝘀alistair actually in the VCS, a lot more 𝘀alistair than I was expecting to see anyway. 𝘀cie, is this a pick that has surprised you? Because we haven't really seen any Thresh so far in the VCS.
Well, we haven't really seen much of a Thresh. I mean, the thing is always that like, you have to consider stuff like the Yuumi bot lane solution, Nami bot lanes. If you have one of those, then you tend to pick a support that might go more towards punching the lane and less to the roaming style. But yeah, Thresh could also be one of the picks that is maybe a little bit slept on, I would say. I mean, there's mostly 𝘀alistair Leona, as you said. And yeah, they tend to just play like for the skirmish roaming style, which is, of course, very prevalent in the VCS.
And Tim, same question to you really on this.
I mean, the 𝘀alistair surprises me. I think 𝘀alistair's overall a champion that's very easy to punish, because the level 1 is just so badly that and so like you would say, especially for like maybe lower elos, you would say, yeah, level 1, it's only level 1, then 𝘀alistair starts spiking. But in competitive play, if you play the lane right and your jungler is good at League of Legends, winning level 1 really hard means you probably win the game. Like, that's how hard that can snowball, because you can build up level leads basically just because 𝘀alistair is so bad level 1. And I think the fact that they're still picking it just means that VCS teams maybe haven't really figured out how to effectively punish the 𝘀alistair to the point where the pick becomes nearly useless. But going to roaming supports, something we have to keep in mind is that Palette in the last series also picked the 𝘁𝗀, which still is available for him if he wants to go back on that. And he actually looked pretty good on it. So I would like to see it again for him. Just go around the map, go roaming, and try to get his mid lane ahead.
Now, 𝘀cie, I want to look towards the top lane. We'll speak about 𝘂ощino in a second, but Pun, I brought up a little statistic about him last time Cerberus played, when they were able to get the 2-0 victory over 𝘂ощi. Pun has only ever lost, or I should say Cerberus have only ever lost, when Pun has been on Renekton. So, that being said, that being said, he did win a game with Renekton against 𝘂ощi, but I just want to put it out there, you know, this Renekton pick is a questionable one for Cerberus so far.
I mean, it's a little bit of a bait pick, one might say, but it's like very matchup dependent. You cannot really pinpoint it down to this, right? I mean, he has played basically anything in the top lane. He was like on Jax versus Camille. He was on Mundo against Renekton, and if I remember correctly, he absolutely kept that Renekton, and even in laning phase started already like going all in on him and just winning. And yeah, I mean, Pun is a very versatile top laner. That's what I wanted to get at. And yeah, maybe we even see the 𝘁𝗀 again. That also worked greatly. But Renekton might be just their choice if they happen to put him on the weak side and just get a priority pick for 𝘀artemis, because 𝘀artemis, if we are being completely honest, he absolutely deserves to have those.
We saw an Ornn as well yesterday, not from Pun, but we saw it. I'm trying to remember who it was who played the Ornn. But either way, maybe we'll see some frontline in that form for 𝘀artemis. Cerberus, either way, looking very good so far in this split. Tim, moving to you and talking a little bit about 𝘂ощino, do we think he can match up or measure up to Pun in the top lane?
I think he has a chance. I mean, he looked decently good against 𝘂ощi. So I think he has a good shot, but he still did a lot of mistakes, and I think he has to start figuring out. I mean, he also played the Renekton in the last series. Didn't look great on it. I think he had an 0.7 KDA, something like that. He was really sprinting it. So we have to see how it matches up. Overall, I hate Renekton. Please don't pick it. It also, like, I think it's 2-7 at the moment in the VCS overall. So nobody's winning on this champion, basically. So yeah, I think as long as neither top laner picks Renekton, anything can happen.
Now, 𝘀cie, we're going to play a little game, right? How many unique champions do you think Yoshino has played over the course of the winter split so far?
How many games has he played? Can you first
how
tell me
many
that?
different champions?
Yeah, but you can you make it a little bit easier for me? Like, tell me how many
played 9 games. He's played 9 games so far.
So it's less than 10 champions for sure. But I mean, it's probably because you asked this question, it will be a little a different, unique champion every game. So we're gonna say 9.
It's 7. He's played 2 games on Gwen and 2 games on Irelia, and the only game he's won so far is on the Graves. How is this statistic useful in any way? I have no idea. Maybe I want Yoshino to play Graves again.
I could have another stat, I think, because Coach Tim just said that Renekton is 2-7, and I remember that there were like 2 wins for Pan on Renekton, so he has all the Renekton wins. So maybe he's the only one allowed to play him.
He has one win on Renekton, and then it was actually Ryuk smurfing it completely in the top lane on Tuesday. I mean, he was gapping in the top lane. So yeah, he has one. I mean, Ryuk has 100% win rate in the champion. He's allowed to play it.
Okay, then Pan, I'm sorry. Guess you are not allowed to play Renekton.
I'm going to make a mental note of this. Only Ryuk can play Renekton. We are jumping on into picks and bans, gents. So, I'm getting tongue-tied. It's too early in the morning for me. Cerberus over on the blue side, Flash over on the red side, Kennen and Xin taken away from Flash, and the Graves and Twisted Fate banned away from Cerberus.
I mean, the first takeaway I would have is on the column that describes who's even playing, and it's not POS, unfortunately, so it's still Pan going in for Cerberus, and maybe POS gets the game too if they stomp the first game. Maybe that's the angle they're going for, because with POS, it was really an unfortunate debut as the first import in the VCS. He was really getting smacked around, and maybe they just want to have like the first win, gain some confidence back for themselves, and then maybe transition that over to POS as a player in game 2.
We are seeing that Syndra being banned away from Harvey. We talked about how influential it is for him, Tim, and it's good to see Cerberus giving that respect over.
Also, something, this might sound weird, but who's 𝘀cie?
The support.
That doesn't seem to be
other
Pallet.
support.
It's the other support coming in. It's not Pallet coming in. So there is a change in the jungle, and something we do see which hasn't changed is seemingly the Nidalee for Dante, which he played on Tuesday in game 2, and in the early game he had a 𝘀𝗀𝗃 performance, but then he cleaned it up and his spears were really just changing team fights left, right, and center. So I really like him going back to that pick and maybe finding success on it this time. But he now really needs setup, and that usually means the VCS special is on the table. It's for Yoshino up in the top lane.
Did we just really start calling a bad Nidalee performance a 𝘀𝗀𝗃 performance? I mean, that just hurts, right?
I mean,
anyway,
hasn't it been called the 𝘀𝗀𝗃 performance for about 2 years now?
Yeah, it's like it is just 𝘀𝗀𝗃 embodies missing spears as a player.
But missing spears is normal. You cannot just hit them onto players with a mouse. It's so hard. But anyway, there's 𝘀𝗀𝗃 coming out for Yado, and I really wonder if Harvey. He cannot play Syndra again because that was of course banned. But they apparently go for the 𝘁𝗀𝗄, which is not so great in the laning phase, I would say. And now I wonder on the side of Cerberus if they themselves opt into the Misfortune, because that might be the most boring pick you can play if you have the Jhin on the other side. And I really hope Artemis knows better. He's already getting the Xayah banned out against him, so maybe there's an angle for him.
I also think that the 𝘁𝗀𝗄 might be a flex pick. Yes, it can work into LeBlanc. It's very easy to lock her down. But I think it's a decent support into Leona. And of course, it's very easy in teamfights to then lock down the LeBlanc once he's jumping in. So I would actually like to see it on support rather than mid lane. And maybe them finding another mid lane pick. For example, Lissandra going into the LeBlanc, or even the AD pick. So we have to see. Misfortune still open, as you said. We might see the Jhin Misfortune still.
Actually, just an angle I want to bring in, 𝘀cie. If we see a tank in the top lane for Yoshino, is there a possibility that we get to see Artemis's Vayne once again?
I mean, if he manages to pick a tank, then yes, but I really wouldn't recommend it for 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶 because he has to mostly 1v9 for his team, and he tried the Mel fight once. He also got a solo kill very early against pretty prestige top laner of the VCS, I dare say, but he was still on Malphite, and with Malphite you do not solo win games. You just basically are like the band-aid fix for your team if you happen to not play so well, or if you just need an easy engage tool. So I really do not expect a Malphite again, or a tank in general from 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶, but there's still a small Vayne angle, but since you aren't on wet side, it's really hard to really pick Vayne here. You don't want to blind it against a full enemy comp, so their failures is definitely more likely, and he's hovering that right now.
Absolutely love to see this one coming through, Tim. What I might love to see a bit more is if this Riven does actually get locked in for Pun, because that would be some spice to say the least in the top lane.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if he actually wants this, because if we look at the team comp that... Oh,
no.
Okay. Yes, we see the Renekton.
No.
And that I mean, we talked about it earlier, where it might be the weak side pick, and I think he's gonna be weak side, because what Flash have basically done is they have so much set up now to play into top lane. Like, top lane wants to be in hyper carry here. That's not an hyper carry. You want something that... No, okay, so Flash just decided to pick Galio Nidalee, and they don't have a lane to play into. Yes, they can play towards the Jhin, but it's not a great lane to play into. You usually want to have something hyper carry style in the lane you're playing into, and right now they have more or less two weak sides, with Gnar being a good weak side range champion, and Jhin usually just clearing waves and enabling his support to move around the map. I'm not too sure where they want to play at.
And 𝘀cie, you know, kind of echoing that, there isn't a lot of CC for this Nidalee to follow up, or not a lot of easy spears to hit.
Definitely not, so I don't really see the strong side Gnar coming out. This could not be really done with a Nidalee who's really like more on the damage part, not the CC part of the early game ganking that's available. I mean, there basically is only the bot lane, I would say, for Team Flash to really play around. Maybe they can actually pull that off. I mean, with an 𝘚listair, aside from the level 1, it's definitely possible if they had a Pulverize combo, or with a Flash Pulverize combo even, to really have the setup there for the Nidalee. But other than that, Dante just needs to smurf a little bit to have it really going for him, and yeah, it won't be an easy game for Team Flash, I would say. Also, I don't really like the Nine to Renekton. It's kind of like matching the same thing with the same thing. He could have picked the Gwen here, or another pick that really like brutalizes the Renekton in the later game, and the Gnar is kind of like a half measure, I would say.
Okay, Tim, 𝘀cie, I'll start with you, Tim. Who do you think's got the better draft? Who do you think takes game one?
I think Cerberus is a much better draft. I think the Renekton isn't great, but I think it fits the style of the team comp. They're very single target engage comp, and then they still have an Unofficial to rely on in the later stages. And I just think that their team comp has a very good mid game, very good early game, very good late game, and all around wants to do the same thing. So I think it's a great team comp, and they're just gonna easily take it.
Okay, 𝘀cie?
Yeah, same actually. I mean, Cerberus, I mean, even without a draft, they would be the clear favorites. With this draft, they just convinced me a little bit more that they are on the same page, considering what they really want in this game. And with Team Flash, I'm not quite seeing it so far. We just talked about how Dante really doesn't have an easy job in this game, and I honestly can only echo what 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶 said, that yeah, Team Flash maybe even a little bit shot themselves in the foot, but that is a little bit of a harsh wording. So I'd just say, I mean, Cerberus has better players and also a slightly better draft, so I give it to them.
Okay. Both analysts on the side of Cerberus will be getting Coach here Tim's thoughts on the game once this game does draw to a close. We've had some upsets so far this week. I think the most notable upset, 𝘀cie, was definitely Cerberus beating 𝘀𝑚. Okay, I'm going to get off that bandwagon now, but...
Where's your clown's nose? I haven't seen it so far.
Don't worry, I've still got the train background. It's ready for if Flash happened to get I'd say almost a miracle win over Cerberus, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. In terms of the early game, though, what are Flash playing around? Because you can't exactly gank 𝘁𝗀𝗀. We already spoke about the weak side Gnar. Is it all on this bottom lane? Is it all trying to put Artemis behind?
The short answer would be yes, I would say, but I mean, it's a little bit tricky on red side, right? With Nidalee, you usually want to start on the blue buff, and if you do that, you happen to path top side, and then you basically have nothing to do for the first 3 levels. You can basically just base and then maybe try next time, I guess, or maybe he pulls off a little bit of a cheese, or maybe they go for an invade play. That's maybe what they are looking for, because I don't really see them having it going well for them with standard play. So yeah, it's a little bit of a tricky question to answer because I'm not really seeing how Dante really manages to have a good early game here unless he is like putting out a trick of his head.
Okay, and then looking over to the side of Cerberus, looking towards Ego, I feel like this isn't the play around Artemis game. Is this the play around Yado game or Pun?
I mean, Yado basically wins the lane on his own, and maybe with Pun you can do it. I mean, Renekton against Minina has very good gank setup with the Ruthless Predator to just easily CC him, deal a lot of damage to him, and then just listen, needs to land his Q, the Resonating Strike, and then he just have a dead Na on the top lane there. So maybe that's something they can play around, but Renekton just offers so much more as a weak side top lane. I would say you don't really get him with a great lead to just solo win the game here. So I would expect him to still play around Artemis, and yeah, Artemis has shown time and time again that when he has a lead, he definitely delivers.
Well, Artemis has definitely shown that. We are getting ready to jump into game. We've got a bit of a delay, and right as I say that, we're probably going to jump back on in. No, it's back to the caster cam, so apologies for this one. But Cerberus, again, you know, they are the favorites coming into this game for a reason. They are 4-0. Flash are 0-4 also for a reason. They have been struggling so far this split. We have been seeing times where they have been showing promise, but against a team like Cerberus, it's going to be difficult for the promise that we've seen, you know, some of those good plays that we've seen from the likes of Yoshino, Dante, and harvey to really be able to stick against a team like Cerberus.
I mean, on the side of Team Flash, you have the advantage that the audience, the fans, they maybe themselves don't really expect much from them, so the pressure maybe kind of already fell off, and they are like, maybe let's just win one series at some point, and they don't really like play every game with like playoffs in mind or something, because playoffs is probably not a realistic goal for them, and relegation doesn't exist since it is the winter split. That's kind of a thing that they just did in between there to even have a split, because summer split was unfortunately not possible in the VCS, and maybe that helps them because maybe their mind is in an easier state than the ones of Cerberus, who are on the top of the table, but it's very hard to even defend the top spot because, I mean, I don't really need to tell you this, 𝘀cie is really coming for them.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to mention is there's no pressure, at least towards the top of the table anyway, about, oh, you need to be able to win the split because you've got MSI or Worlds. There is no MSI or Worlds after the split. It's only for the teams towards the bottom who have the possibility of going into that relegation series.
For sure. And now we are loading into the game. Really excited to see what we are getting here. It's a little bit of a camera jiggle that the VETV observers have going for them. I really enjoy it. And yeah, now we are past that point. And yeah, Cerberus on the blue side. Team Flash on the red side. We've already talked a lot about the draft. It's a Predator Galio, by the way, so we just finally can talk a little bit about the wounds. And it will be heavily going into the AP department. And I'm really looking forward to what the Galio can do here, because he needs to get the snowball rolling a little bit, because otherwise, despite having Nidalee and Galio, they might just have a little bit of magic damage DPS lacking in the later stage of the game, because they just maybe blow their combo once and then they are just all out of the gunpowder, and will maybe have trouble sticking that damage to the targets of Cerberus in the later stages of the game.
Okay, so both junglers going to be starting on the bottom side of the map as well. And it's what we spoke about. Nidalee wants to be starting on, well, we said actually Nidalee would be starting on the blue buff, which Dante is doing. And maybe we'll see whether Dante does look for a gank on the top side, or, as we mentioned, just reset and then path towards the bottom side for a potential gank.
Yeah, for sure. You always see the regular ego. I mean, that's not regular at all. Just to use the water up here to even go for an invade play, and maybe level 2, he just wants to find Dante and kill Dante. He needs...
Oh, he smokes it away as well. Dante over the wall. Ego with the ward hop. It's level 2 on level 2, but Ego just bullies Dante completely.
And he just keeps going, right? He wasn't even done with the grab. He just keeps fighting him. And Dante even has to flash away. This is an absolute disaster for Team Flash. I mean, at least he got level 2 because he could do the blue buff untouched. But, I mean, as much as Ego could have stolen there, he definitely did steal there. And, yeah, that's a little bit of an unlucker on the side of Team Flash to have your early game jungler not starting off on a good foot.
Is he going to go over to the top side of the map after Wolves?
I mean, there are 2 turrets sitting there, so I really wouldn't recommend.
He's going for it. He's doing it as well, and he's going to go straight over to the Raptors. We saw this in one of the other VCS games. I'm trying to remember who it is. Dante still here. It's level 3 or level 2. A smite has been used, and 𝘊𝐺𝐴 is 10 CS up on Dante. This is dirty from the Cerberus jungler.
And I can just keep saying the same things. I mean, this is an absolute disaster for Dante.
On, 𝘊𝐺𝐴, go back in. Go.
I mean,
okay.
Gotta say, so 𝘊𝐺𝐴 shouldn't listen to me because I recommended against it and it clearly worked. So who's really knowing how the game works there? But I mean, between 2 turrets, it's kind of a risky move. I mean, 𝘊𝐺𝐴 was also pushing 𝘁𝑖 in, so maybe there was like a chance to do like a flash taunt play on the side of 𝘁𝑖 if he is ready for that. But I don't think 𝘊𝐺𝐴 really cares. I mean, he just does it. He sees the chickens, he takes the chickens.
I'm trying to remember the other jungler who did this because we literally had a talk about exactly that not too long ago. But in that other play, the jungler was able to just bully the red side jungler off the red buff. However, Dante was able to get a control ward down, so 𝘊𝐺𝐴, I think, was vaguely aware that had probably been dropped and played it safe. We got a bit of a duke over 𝘁𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀. 𝘁𝗶 taken down low. First blood for 𝘁𝑎rtemis. 𝘁𝗶 out to safety. It's a double kill for the Cerberus ADC. And 𝘊𝐺𝐴 will say, look, 𝘁𝗏𝑚𝑖s, you've already got 2. I'm going to take this final kill of the fight.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sharing is caring situation because they definitely could have given that kill over to 𝘁𝗏𝑚𝑖s there. That was another disaster again for Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ. I mean, you really see the desperation almost in the eye there, even you don't really see face cams because, I mean, that was just desperately the flash engaged by 𝘁𝑖 who's filling in for Palette today. And
okay,
yeah, I mean, they even tunnel visioned on to the 𝘁𝑗𝐴.
𝘂𝑚 with the solo bolo. Okay.
That's like the one thing that's going for them, right? I mean, 𝘂𝑚 is still a good top laner. He can get the solo kill there, but I want to speak more about this river skirmish there because I tunnel visioned so much onto one of his 𝘂𝑚, but you know, as a 𝘂𝑚 player yourself, you will see the play again. The spear hits and not displays them in. He also like flash pulverize and doesn't really get the pulverize going on, so your 1OP lives with a sliver of HP. He gets the safeguard shield. He is an aftershock 𝘂𝑚. He's very, very tanky, and 𝘁𝑚𝑖s can just free fire because he is ignored by the side of Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ, and yeah, absolute disaster for them. 𝘂𝑚 makes the best out of it though because he gets a solo bolo on top side. But I mean, it's another disconnected lane. It probably alone won't really break open the map for them. So that if that is enough, it's very doubtful to see because yeah, that won't happen that much. And it was really close here. I mean, Pan is fighting into the minion wave, which means he takes a lot of damage, especially in the early game. And 𝘂𝑚 gets the level up here, can abuse the range advantage he gets there from the Minina. And yeah, Pan is like a little bit of a crocodile back there more than the real Renekton.
The river play just didn't make that much sense to me from the side of Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ. Like, sure, they had a 3v2 at the start, but 𝘊𝐺𝐴 was always going to be able to out-roam 𝘁𝑉 into that particular skirmish, and you can already see 𝘊𝐺𝐴 with a very healthy 14 CS lead. Engaged from 1OP, 𝘁𝑖 forced to use a headbutt on it to the 𝘂𝑚, and as a result, he just takes so much damage. That's an aggressive Zenith Blade from 1OP. 𝘁𝑖 surviving on a sliver of HP. Doesn't have any heal available to him, as 𝘁𝑠u did start with a cleanse. Makes sense when you are playing against a 𝘂𝑚.
And welcome to our 𝘂𝑚, I would say. I mean, it's like the flamethrower plus turret combination from the 𝘂𝑚. It's like the most highest DPS combo he can basically pull off because, I mean, the Serum would give him heal, the Graviton would give him the snare part of the 𝘂𝑚's weapon. So, yeah, not many things can do more damage than the 𝘂𝑚 at this stage of the game against the 𝘂𝑚. I mean, and he almost just killed the 𝘂𝑚 in like one spell rotation as an AD carry. And 𝘂𝑚 basically survived with 50 HP there. And that's not a good sign for Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ at all.
Yeah, and just got clarification from our production Spoods. We did see a similar jungle pattern when it was Penguin playing against 𝘁𝑗 from 𝘀𝐴. So yeah, we'll be seeing Penguin a little bit later. Wait, Penguin? Sorry, not against 𝘀𝐴. Penguin against Saigon Buffalo. We'll be seeing Penguin again playing for SBTC. They will be taking on 𝘀𝐴 later today, as we have jumped on into a pause due to some technical difficulty. So hopefully we'll be able to jump back into game shortly, 𝘀𝐿𝐶y. But so far, things are looking fairly good for Cerberus.
For sure, and we also just saw, or didn't quite see, that 𝘊𝐺𝐴 was like evading a gank as LeBlanc against the mid-jungle duo from the side of Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ. So even that didn't work out for Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ there. And I wouldn't say it's a complete disaster because 𝘂𝑚, especially, he was playing really well in the top side and he was getting the solo kill there. But other than that, not much going right for Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ.
Yeah, and you can see Team 𝘀liche, they're trying to make some plays happen. They look for that gank mid lane, but as we already said, it's very difficult to gank a 𝘁𝗀𝗀 in bottom lane. Artemis already has 2 kills. Maybe that is a way back in for 𝘀liche if they could pick up a nicer shutdown bounty on Artemis.
I mean, for sure. I mean, they likely proc the 𝘁𝗀𝗀 passive at least, yeah, so there's like a little bit of an angle where she doesn't have that defensive tool available to her, and maybe that's like the window in back into the game for the side of Team 𝘀liche. But I mean, it's doubtful because I mean they have like 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝗹𝗀, who doesn't really deal that much damage as a 𝘁𝗀. Of course, in the early game, he's still a decent threat, especially with the Shield of the Rand, with the huge taunt he can pull off there. But it's really very hard because Dante also needs to land his spears. And so far, he landed 1 good spear, I would say, and that one ended in their demise on the side of Team 𝘀liche. So it's doubtful if he can keep hitting those and keep getting, or even start getting leads for his team. But we are jumping back into the game, I think.
We are indeed. And we jump back into the game. We're looking towards this top lane matchup of 𝘂𝗔𝗔 against 𝘁𝗀. We saw 𝘂𝗔𝗔 being able to pick up a solo kill, not quite first blood, but still a rather crucial first blood for the side. First blood, crucial solo kill for Team 𝘀𝗀che. Both top laners using their flash in the process as well, and maybe Dante could look towards punishing this flashless Renekton.
I mean, maybe you could. I mean, you just said it. You called it a first blood. It was maybe, in some perspective, was first blood on the side of Team 𝘀𝗀che. I mean, it was the first time that they could smell the enemy blood there, because otherwise they've only smelled their own. And yeah, 𝘂𝗔𝗔, he's playing great as always. Is ahead in CS. Got the flash, got the solo kill. He didn't keep his flash himself, which would make maybe a little bit easier for Dante. But I mean, it's just very maybe. Dante even just looks for rank topside and just doesn't really get the kill there, but at least like can deny some CS from 𝘁𝗀 or even chunk him out, because it's really hard to get the kill there. There's not much CC set up with the Gnar. Maybe with Mega Gnar there actually is, and 𝘁𝗀 can be punished there. But yeah, Dante doesn't have an easy job. We said it time and time again, starting from draft, and yeah, Ego just basically showed him up. I mean, it was at level 2 that he already got a good invade going on for him, and Dante has never really recovered.
And Dante now over 20 CS behind, but 𝘂𝗔𝗔's having a great time in this matchup, playing with the range against the melee Renekton. But I don't know if that's going to be enough for Team 𝘀𝗀che to get back into this game. They're over 2,000 gold behind, and that's due to Dante being so far down in CS, 𝘁𝗶𝗶𝗹 being 20 CS down on 𝘂𝗀, and Artemis being, well, nearly 15 CS up on 𝘁𝗀.
For sure. Now we see the top side 𝘁𝗀 on the side of Cerberus. They likely go for the Rift Herald, and this cannot be contested at all by Team 𝘀𝗀che. They also know that. I mean, they don't even go for a steal or anything like that. Dante's just clearing his Crux on the side of his jungle, and that takes some time anyway. And there's not really much to really capitalize on the winning top lane for them, which is really sad, because I mean, 𝘁𝗀 is getting chunked out by 𝘂𝗔𝗔 constantly. He is down in CS, but he still gets like the lion's share of the wave there and doesn't really die to anything. Now maybe 𝘂𝗔𝗔 gets caught.
𝘂𝗔𝗔 being engaged on will hop over the wall. Does a decent javelin toss onto Ego, but 𝘁𝗀𝗋 is there for protection. There will be no follow-up engager from Dante or 𝘂𝗔𝗔 indeed, and it's just plates going on over to Artemis and 𝘁𝗀𝗋 as 𝘁𝗀 makes his way into the bottom lane to cover the absent laneys.
I mean, you say that, but they haven't gotten the plating yet, which is really triggering to see, right? The plating has like 10 HP left, and I think that's also like the silver lining for Team 𝘀𝗀che. I mean, there haven't been any turret platings taken by Cerberus, but it's also on the other side, ironically, a silver lining for Team Cerberus, because they are more than 2k gold ahead at 10 minutes, and they haven't gotten a single plating. So there's a lot of money up for grabs for them, especially considering they just took the Rift Herald, which guarantees them almost to get like 2 platings at least.
Yeah, absolutely, and that Rift Herald is going to be putting a lot of gold. I mean, for Cerberus, where would you want to put that Rift Herald? Who do you want to be pouring the money into? Because for me, I'd think 𝘂𝗀. I'd want to get a nice, juicy 𝘁𝗀𝗀 for this mid-game.
I probably would put it mid lane too. I mean, not just because it's 𝘂𝗀, but just because it's the mid lane, right? Because, I mean, if you open up the mid lane, you get so much more map control, which will be very detrimental to potential Drake skirmishes you're going to take later on. I mean, they also haven't taken a Drake despite having such a smashing early game on 4 out of 5 of their positions they are having so far. And yeah, just opening the mid lane will probably be like one of the keys to victory for them. And 𝘂𝗀, I mean, speaking of his individual performance, he's up more than 30 CS. Of course, it is a good matchup, but a 30 CS lead at 10 minutes is also still something where you might say it's just impressive.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, It is impressive. This is Harvey's actually first game on the Galio. It's not been as bad as the Vex, but it's not been great so far. He's just been bullied out by the LeBlanc. We know it's a winning matchup for 𝘀𝗀𝗀, but still Harvey just lacking a little bit in this game. All of the hope for Team 𝘀𝗀 right now is really resting on 𝘂𝗀𝗄.
And also a problem with the Galio is you usually want to have priority with him, or at least be able to use the hero's entrance at least once, maybe in bot lane, maybe in top lane for them. And he never really got anything because he's constantly getting shoved in. 𝘂𝗀𝗀 is not really having any kind of mercy for him. And also 𝘂𝗀𝗄 doesn't have that against 𝘁 apparently, because 𝘁 just lost half his HP by daring to walk up to CES there. He also got the first turret plating, which we addressed earlier, and there's also the Drake taken on the bot side, because I mean the bot lane player was just insane. Jhin also by now 20 CS down, 𝘁𝗀𝗄 not having a great early game, and they might just get Dove soon, or maybe not.
𝘂𝗀𝗄 has been engaged on. He's been forced to use a cleanse, but he's got the red and white guns, and he just turns the fight around. He's keeping the crescendum stacked up. Ego shows up. Ego picks up the kill, and there is a Rift Herald that can be dropped down as well, and a wave that will be crashing into this tower shortly at 2.
And I wonder if I should call that even the dive, because they were basically killing them before the turret. It was an actual solo kill of the AD carry. I mean, this just shows to me. Yeah, 1v2 as well. I mean, it just shows to you that pick more Aphelios VCS players. It is a great champion. It does so much for you, especially from ahead. You can do so much. And there's a defensive TP from 𝘂𝗀𝗄 into the Nidalee trap, so there's no danger to get the turret down, but this will be a spot.
Forcing flash over the wall. Harvey's going to be able to get the taunt onto Run OP, but now 𝘁 teleporting in as well. Hero's entrance will land, but it's all on the Leona so far. 𝘁 over the wall. 𝘂𝗀𝗄 is the focus. He has the Mega Gnar, but 𝘂𝗀𝗄 forced to flash away. 𝘁 will get taken down from a good curtain call, and it is a double kill for 𝘂𝗀𝗄. 2 kills for 1. Cerberus coming out on top yet again.
Yet again, and they might even go for more, because the bot lane tier 1 turret is very low. The wave is just crashing in, and it was also just not a good fight for Team 𝘀𝗀 to take there, because they were just so far down. They lose the war of attrition. They are almost 5,000 gold down, and they just focus the Renekton, who still does a little bit of Renekton things, because he's still decently strong in the early game despite losing the lane there. He survived for quite some time and did some decent damage with his huge 𝘁𝗀𝗄𝗃 when he is in the Dominus form, and that's why he was far from useless there, despite being the only casualty on the side of Team Cerberus. But they are probably happy that they got the 2-for-1 there. They don't even take the turret just yet, and it's just the snowball keeps rolling on the side of Cerberus, and I wonder if there's anything for Team 𝘀𝗀 to do to stop the bleeding.
I mean, surely you just need to be hoping that you can find picks. You can be finding some lane ganks if you are Dante right now. Try to pick up some of these shutdowns, but so far Cerberus have shown that they aren't really making any mistakes, and this is how Artemis got the kill, and you can't really blame Arte for going in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like, I mean, if that doesn't work, you will never really get a chance on him. But he just has the ideal Aphelios weapons, just the white guns, because it's just the maximum of sustain he can have, the maximum of DPS is not quite there, because he doesn't have the flamethrower, but it's more than fine to have 𝘂𝗏𝗏 and 𝘂𝗏𝗏 there. And yeah, he is in the ideal setup on the side of Aphelios, the ideal weapons to really fight in the 1v2 there, and he's just so ahead that he just can do it, and he just needs to basically right-click, place the turret, and do as much damage as he possibly could, and just smash all his buttons, and he gets the kill there. And now we see the result of that. Bot lane tier 1 turret is falling, and the gold lead extends to 5.5k.
And 5.5k gold lead, I reckon 2k is probably on Artemis. Actually, maybe that's a bit harsh. Maybe it's only about 1.5k, and then another 1.5k on 𝘂𝗀𝗀, and another k on Ego. I don't know. But I feel like those would be reasonable numbers.
Yeah, probably reasonable numbers. Maybe the observers of the VCS will show out the gold graph at some point, or even the gold numbers. I think they just saw for the 1 split seconds, and I couldn't really catch it, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, probably like 𝘂𝗀𝗄 is maybe even ahead in gold on to 𝘁, but on the other side of the map, there's not really much going for them here. Wounded Vigil into Gravitum, so he has to force the cleanse there, and that's another summoner down on from 𝘁𝗀𝗄. Not ideal for 𝘀𝗀 at all, especially the Jhin is very vulnerable. He really needs his defensive summoners, and now he's just down one of them.
Ult for cleanse sounds like a good trade to me if you are Artemis or anyone from the side of Cerberus. And it's just feeling so one-sided right now. Cerberus just in complete control. Team 𝘀𝗀 can't really step up. Cerberus have just had control over everything, be it Drake, be it Rift Herald.
Or Dante.
Ronopy going for the engage. On to Dante they go. Dante's burning down. Artemis will pick up the kill. Now they look towards Arte as well. Yado joining into the fray. Ethereal Chains come through. Yoshino joining in. Ego take it down low. Curtain call. Oh, good sniper from 𝘀𝘀cie. But will they be able to find any more? Ronopy taken down to a few hundred HP. But that is all. And once again, it's another 2-for-1 with Cerberus coming out on top.
It is another 2-for-1. They really see that there's not really much Flash can do. They just get deathbot by their failures as long as he has a good weapon there. 𝘀𝘀cie also just now casually losing half his HP because LeBlanc happened to land one chain. On the good side, for Team Flash, they at least stop the Herald and maybe just do it on their own, but it is the second Herald. It won't get them any turret plating, so maybe Cerberus doesn't really care about dropping this to them and maybe just give them the Herald as a consolation prize, so to say, move more on their own on the other side of the map, maybe secure the second dragon, because that is also spawning in a few seconds, and it is an Infernal Dragon, which really helps them in the mid game to get like a little bit more of a lead. And you just have Aphelios 4/4. Artemis is really ahead in this game, also 4 DCS.
Oh wait, no, Ego wants it.
Steal it?
No, I don't think he did. He's running, flashing over the wall. Maybe a bit too aggressive from Ego. Yoshino gets the kill. And Artemis now getting focused down. Artie forced to flash away. The taunt will come through from Harvey, who's looking for the shutdown, but he can't get it. You can't kill the Aphelios. And I can't even really blame Harvey for going in for it. Artie gets taken down by Yado. And once again, Team Flash get 1 kill, but this time Cerberus get 3 kills for it. So no matter what Flash do, Cerberus always seem to come out on top.
Yeah, and you keep saying that you can't really blame them for going in on Aphelios, but then you didn't really make the calculations right with Aphelios, because Aphelios just does that. He just is a champion that can do these things. So please, VCS, pick more Aphelios. The champion is broken in the right hands. And yeah, at least for Team Flash, they actually got the Herald. I see Yoshino having the eye there in his trinket inventory. So here we see the fight again. Ego almost seals it, but not quite. Goes for the suicide mission. And yeah, it ends in his demise, but Artemis on the other side, he just shreds him to pieces with his turret there. He gets chunked quite a bit there, but it's kind of funny.
Wait,
they all go
why
into
did
him and
Harvey-
he doesn't take damage.
Why did Harvey not onto Arte? That's confusing me. I don't know. Because he would have got the knock up then, and that might have been enough to get the kill. And Artemis didn't even flash away, so he just walked away. Okay, that one's left me a bit confused. Team Flash have been able to get a Drake though, so that's a positive for them. They are still 8,500 gold behind. I do want to take this opportunity to really praise Yoshino, because he has been playing very well as Curtain Call. That's looking for Ego. Yado distorting forward. Solarflare not actually going to find any members of Team Flash.
For sure not. And speaking a little bit more about this topside skirmish, I mean, maybe they at least force a flash from Artemis if they go for the hero's entrance on top of what Arte did there on the 𝘀𝘀cie with the headbutt. But like this, they really couldn't really do much. I mean, if they get the knockup done, also Aphelios cannot really lifesteal with 𝘁𝗶𝗆, because he just straight up cannot attack there unless his turret is in a decent position there. Maybe the turret can lifesteal for him. But like this, they don't even force a flash. He's now 6-0 on the Aphelios. And it's also a little bit illegal that Team Flash got that Drake on their side and also the Herald. Ego, the last few minutes, I haven't been that impressed by him, to be honest. He goes for these suicide missions, doesn't really get much for his team. And they still have good skirmishes, but they usually just win them because Team Flash just keeps chasing into them and just died to Artemis on his Aphelios. And it's kind of funny because Ego, I mean, his last minutes not too impressive. He doesn't really get the playmaking tools out. Team Flash just hands it to Artemis on a silver platter.
I think it's fair to say the name suits the player for Ego, as he does make those very...
That is very rude, but very true.
Ronopy looking to go in on to 𝘀𝘀cie, burns or forces the cleanse to be burnt instantly by the Team Flash ADC, and Cerberus just keep on pushing, as that's a Rift Herald being dropped by Yoshino in the bottom lane, trying to break open at least one tower.
Yes, demolish.
Pan doesn't care, he just takes the eye, and now Yoshino is stuck under tower as we take a look towards the top side, because that's Ego being able to pick up a kill onto Dante. Yoshino was able to take the tower and then just bullied Pan for everything he was worth.
And I'm really surprised that Pan gets out there, because usually when the turret is done there, I'm really favoring Yoshino there, not just as an individual player, but also in the now versus connected in a very long lane, and it's not like 10 minutes, it's already 20 minutes into the game. He shouldn't really get killed by a Renekton combo there, but he should have a lot of damage on his side to really like chunk the Renekton out with the percent HP damage from the Hyper, with the percent HP damage from the Divine Sunderer that he gets every few seconds. He also has decent sustain on his own with this item. And yeah, here we see what Ego can do. maybe I criticized him too much, but yeah, he just kicks him in the face. Just make it easy. Don't go for fancy plays. Just kick them in the face and you kill them. That also works apparently.
I mean, to be honest with you, 𝘀𝗀𝗃, a kick in the face does hurt, and sometimes can kill you. Don't try it at home. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about shutdowns, because 𝘂𝗀 and 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s do have some sizable shutdowns on them. 450 for 𝘂𝗀, 700 for 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s. But then again, the issue is right now, 𝘀𝗀𝗃, is we've seen Team 𝘀𝗏 sometimes be able to get on top of 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s. But it's 𝘁𝗏 getting on top of 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s, it's 𝘁𝗏𝗏 getting on top of 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s. And when they do, 𝗀𝗏𝗃 and 𝘁𝗏𝗃 are nowhere nearby, so you just don't have the damage to kill. Unlike 𝘀𝗀rys here, who do have the damage to kill 𝘁𝗏𝗏.
They certainly do. They also force the flash from 𝘁𝗏𝗃 because he is 𝘂𝗀, but he's 0-5 as a support. He isn't really that tanky. Only with his unbreakable will available he would be, and he doesn't want to boil it there because he would just stall the inevitable a little bit more. And this might be an early Baron angle for Team Cerberus, because I mean they have a Fails that is very far ahead, that's ideal to shred a Baron, and they are 5v4 and are 10,000 gold ahead. Why not just go for Baron and see what you can go for, because you can at least bait a fight.
Well, Solar Flare is going to come through onto 𝘁𝗀. Pun on the flank. Will be able to find the lockdown. Moonlight Vigil will not connect, but it doesn't matter. 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s just has so much damage. 𝑦oshino, 𝘁𝗏𝗃, 𝘁𝗏𝗃 all on the run. 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s sniped down by the Sonic Wave. Resonating Strike in. Pun picks up the kill. And Cerberus, again, they can just do this. They just hover towards Baron. Team 𝘀𝗏 have to check. Cerberus take a couple of kills. And now they're just going to do the same. And they're just going to keep on doing that. And keep on taking kills whenever Team 𝘀𝗏 try to step forward.
And I'm really hesitant to criticize Team 𝘀𝗏 that much, because I mean, what can they really do? I mean, they have to go in, but they also can't go in. They're like in this really sticky situation there, because I mean, you can't just watch them take Baron when you're 10k down. You would basically just lose the whole game of a single Baron empowered push there with the minions coming in, and they now have to give up the Baron. They just now drop 2 more kills. I mean, maybe the correct play there is to just let them actually take the Baron and maybe look for some map control on the other side of the map, maybe get a second Drake going for them, because they will likely reset as soon as they take the Baron. But I mean, not even that is happening, because Cerberus just has no reason to stop.
Oh no, 𝘁𝗀. Goodbye.
Oh, 𝘁𝗀. Bye-bye.
So, okay, to be fair, 𝘀𝗃 is trying to be able to secure the Drake. And I feel like, for instance, this game has been a game decided by 3 factors, essentially. Factor 1, Ego with that early invade onto 𝘀𝗃, being able to force 𝘀𝗃 really far behind on the Nidalee and have practically no impact on the game. Factor 2, 𝘁𝗀, 𝘁𝗏, and 𝘀𝗃 getting way too aggressive to find a pick on a Leona in a river when 𝘂𝗀 had priority on LeBlanc, and then they all died. And I feel like the third factor is probably just how far ahead 𝘂𝗀 was able to get on 𝘁𝗏 just from CS alone.
I mean, you basically just summed it up pretty nicely there. I mean, it was just those 3 factors. I mean, the river skirmish was kind of a disaster. 𝘂oshino was doing fine, and Dante, I mean, he wasn't playing terribly, but he just had nothing to work with, right? I mean, level 2, he just gets cyber bullied out of his own jungle, and he already had a rough starting point considering the draft, where he has like very few setup with his lanes. Only bot lane is really something he can maybe play around, and yeah, we just saw what 𝘁𝗏𝗃 did in the river skirmish. Maybe
we've got gold up.
We've got gold up actually now. Nice thing to talk about. This mid lane gap is so insane. I mean, actually, the bot lane gap is something we should maybe focus more on. And there is just 𝘂oshino against Pun. 8,000 versus 8,000. Nothing to see here. Just don't look at my bot lane, please. This is what he's probably thinking right now.
I mean, bot and mid is both like Flame Horizon, double the gold, pretty much.
Moonlight Vigil? What?
Flashes forward with the Moonlight Vigil, and he bursts through an Alistar. That's how ahead 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s is right now. 𝘂𝗀 Ethereal Chains will land onto 𝘂oshino, and 𝘂oshino will flash. He's going to be able to get the kill onto Pun, and 𝘂oshino is doing well this game, and you've got to feel for 𝘂oshino as the curtains are called. Who do they go on? Oh, sniped! And 𝑟on will tank the damage. 𝘂oshino coming in. That's an instant taunt. Deadly Flourish. 𝘂oshino will be forced to flash away. And Cerberus survive. And it was almost looking good.
And Pun didn't survive, and that makes it so much more easier for Team 𝘀𝗏 to fight into this, because the curtain call can really chunk anyone out aside from the Renekton. Maybe 𝘂oP is someone who can really face tank the shots. I mean, he just did for 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s, and otherwise 𝘁𝗏𝗻𝑚𝑖s would have died there, because the front line is really lacking on the side of Cerberus. And there was like an ideal setup for Team 𝘀𝗏, where like the curtain call can do a lot for them still. I mean, also, I would say 𝘁𝗀 is like maybe the second best performing player on them, but just now as I say that he just died there. Unfortunate for him, I would say. And yeah, it wasn't really a clean dive played by Team Cerberus there, but they also really don't need to play that cleanly, I guess, being that so far ahead. We just saw what 𝘁𝗏𝗺 did there with the Moonlight Vigil plus Flamethrower combination, where he just basically one-shots two people, flashed offensively at the AD carry. The other AD carries can't just do that, and 𝘁𝗏𝗺 really shows up again and again in this winter split.
So, I just want to say, we talk about getting wins, right? And Cerberus, they are going to get this win. I'm almost certain of that. They are 4-0. But you know what a real victory is, 𝘀cie? When your team is down 15,000 gold, 20 kills to 5, and your KDA is 3-0-2, that's what we call a win.
𝘀𝗏𝗺 is just that elo held. It's absolutely insane. I mean, the poor guy. I mean, he just maybe gets a new team for spring. I almost hope for that because 𝘀𝗏𝗺 deserves better. I mean, he has been on Flash when Flash was a champion. Has been on Flash when Flash was the top team of the VCS at least. And now Flash is really like in a very struggling position because they haven't really capitalized on their national success in the VCS. They haven't really had international tournaments, and that's really sad to see because, I mean, there was so much more to take for 𝘀𝗏𝗺, and now he's just in this position here. 2 inhibitors down now for Team Cerberus. It's not too early to take inhibitors anymore. They just need one more top lane push, and the game should be wrapped up.
When you look to Team Flash and you look at the 2 veteran players from Team Flash being 𝘀𝗏𝗺 and 𝘁𝗏𝗺, albeit 𝘁𝗏𝗺 is not playing in this particular game. Maybe he'll play in the second game of the series. 𝘀𝗏𝗺 was part of Team Flash when Team Flash dominated the VCS. 𝘁𝗏𝗺 was part of 𝘀𝗀 when 𝘀𝗀 won back in 2020, if I recall correctly. So they have 2 very experienced players on the team, but it just doesn't seem to be enough for Team Flash at this point in the split anyway.
No, for sure. I mean, you cannot just solo carry on top lane support alone. I mean, it would be a solo carry because it's 2 people, but you get the point, right? It's pretty hard to play with like 𝘀𝗀𝗆 jungler, 𝘀𝗀𝗆 bot laner, and I think 𝘀𝗀𝗆 mid laner as well, and not an easy position for them. I mean, 𝘁𝗏𝗆, we keep saying it, he had this one good Syntho game, which maybe baits Team Flash into thinking he's not that bad, but so far he just hasn't really lived up to what we expect from a VCS player, and it's kind of unfortunate to see because, I mean, the player obviously has some talent in his, if he has performed
Okay,
but now
okay.
see.
They're going in for the Leona. Oh, deadly flash. 1 AP able to flash away. Pun going in. Pun knocked into a wall. 𝘀𝗏𝗺 joining in. 𝘁𝗏𝗺 flashing away. How is no one from Cerberus dead yet? It's absolutely ridiculous. 𝘁𝗏𝗆 will get taken down. 𝘀𝗏𝗺 trying to find something onto 𝘀𝗏𝗺, who distorts over the wall and lands the ethereal chains as well. 𝘀𝗏𝗺 trying to avoid taking a first death of the game, but he will finally fall. 𝘀𝗏𝗺 picks up the kill. I think it was a shutdown as well onto 𝘀𝗏𝗺, but Cerberus will win the fight. Team Flash went for one final Hail Mary play. You can't blame them. They tried to unload everything.
Oh, look at that.
All 𝘀𝗏𝗆 survived. 𝘁𝗏𝗺 is just not letting Dante and 𝘁𝗏𝗺 out the base. He took no damage either. 𝘁𝗏𝗺 flashing forward. They'll be able to find one, but that is all. Nexus gets taken down. Cerberus take game 1 over Team Flash.
And what a performance by 𝘁𝗏𝗺. I mean, you just saw him like chasing 3 people out. They were like running, screaming away. And I'm gonna say it now. As long as no other VCS AD carry picks up Aphelios, 𝘁𝗏𝗺 is the definitely best one so far. And I'm sticking to that. Let's wait and see what the other VCS AD carries bring to the table, because that was just a performance by him. On the whole game, I would say it was just not like a solo carry performance for him, because we also see 𝘀𝗏𝗺 smashing the mid lane absolutely there. And yeah, Cerberus rewards themselves, picks up another win, and they are 1 game away from having a 5-0 start in the VCS winter split. And yeah, let's wait and see if they can manage to pull that off, because so far Team Flash has not looked good.
They have not. We're going to be jumping on into a short break, and when we do return, we will be getting our coach or our other analyst Tim's thoughts on the game. But stay tuned to VCS English. We will be back in a short bit. Welcome back, everyone. You guys see this behind me? Well, it's all burning because Cerberus absolutely destroyed Team Flash in game 1. 𝘀𝗀𝗆, Tim, I'll take your thoughts on that game first, because Cerberus looked in complete control.
Yeah, I mean, they were dominating from start to finish. I think the only lane it wasn't completely dominated on was top lane to a certain degree. I think 𝘀𝗏𝗺 held his own. But then again, I mean, he's playing Gnar into Renekton. It would be a disaster if he wasn't winning lane. So props to him to still like find a solo kill and be in a decent position, considering how the rest of the game went really early. But it was to be expected from him.
And 𝘀cie, coming into this game, coming into this series, we were kind of expecting, okay, it's mid-jungle duo, but Yoshino is showing time and time again that he still has that quality that we can sometimes expect of him. Sometimes it's inconsistent, but he is a player that Flash can rely on. Do they just try to play strong side top, and do they just try to win through top in game 2?
I hope they do, because Yoshino seems to be the only hope left, really. I mean, we just saw he was on the Nah, he was winning, he was 3-0-2. His whole team was dying all the time, and he still couldn't really be the detrimental factor for them to really even stabilize the game. And maybe he just needs to be a little bit on an even harder carry. I think we talked about it earlier in the green room, where maybe there's an angle for Camila or Jax for him. Maybe not the Gwen that I mentioned earlier in the draft, because they would have been very, very AP favored in the top side of the map, and they shouldn't be that one-sided considering the damage split. But there's definitely something to take from there with Yoshino. Put him on 1v9 champion and actually play around your strong laners, because that's not something Team Flash has been doing so far.
I mean, Tim, I did say before game 1, the only champion Yoshino has won on is the Graves. Pull out the Graves top, right?
I mean, Graves is not an easy champion to play into. I think he's very much like the Gnar. Yes, you can win lane, and in an isolated 1v1, you can be a strong laner, but usually you're not a great champion to play into because you don't give any CC. You give a decent amount of damage, but that's all you bring to the table. And you need a jungler that can CC, for example, like a 𝘀𝘀, right? That brings that early CC and makes it easy for you to follow up. I think then it works, but another thing I want to harp on, please don't put Harvey on Galio again. Give this man something he can play. Like, it didn't look great, and he looked fine on Orianna. He looked great on Syndra, so give him something like that.
Yeah, some control mages, essentially. 𝘀cie, going back to you and kind of talking, I guess we can go back to this mid lane matchup. 𝘀𝗀 played very well, and considering 𝘀𝗀 is probably one of the best mid laners in the league, this is a hard test for 𝘁𝗀, and 𝘁𝗀 has not shown up in game 1.
For sure not, and I wonder if you can really target him in the draft a little bit more, because maybe you can take out the LeBlanc, or maybe prepare a counter for it. Maybe there's we mentioned earlier, maybe Lissandra would have been better for 𝘁𝗀 there to really stabilize in the game, and maybe even match the LeBlanc better, because he really couldn't do it on Galio despite the matchup. Of course, it may be LeBlanc favored on this level, but he really should do more than get down 30-40 CS in lane there. That's not something you would expect of the LeBlanc versus Galio matchup. And maybe now with Flash likely taking the blue side, there's a little bit more room to ban out some target champs, because on that side you definitely are a little bit more relegated to just banning meta champions. And yeah, I hope that Team Flash, assuming they have side selection, take the blue side here.
Now, I want to go back to you, Tim, because I want to talk about Artemis. This guy is not just the best ADC, but he's the best player in the VCS. I'm just going to go out and say it.
Okay.
He's just so consistent, and every single game he is performing. It's so hard to stop him.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about this draft as well is that something that going into Worlds, I think, was a big talking point is how Aphelios was used by teams, and Western teams specifically being that scared to pick this champion when they didn't have a buffing up champion. Yes, Aphelios is great with Braum, Lulu, and Thresh, but you might as well just play him as a normal AD carry with something like the Leona, which time and time again we saw LPL teams just being able to do, and Aphelios playing the game maybe without even that peel that can be provided, and he absolutely followed up on it. And I think most people just sleep on how much early pressure and damage an Aphelios, especially with a Leona, for example, can put out, and then just can snowball over the game.
Yeah, we'll see whether we do get another Aphelios. It might get banned away, but we've said before, 𝘀cie, you can't ban out Artemis. He'll just play whatever he wants, and he'll play pretty darn well with it as well.
I mean, he just did it again, right? I mean, they banned the 𝘀𝗀 Xayah against him, just picks up Aphelios. If you ban both of them, maybe just goes back to the Jinx, goes back to the Vayne. He can play it all. And even if those two, I mean, assuming like the really unrealistic scenario where Team Flash bans like 5 AD carries and picks one away, you would still probably find something to play with. Maybe like the Misfortune would be back against the Jhin, and something I really wouldn't like to see. But Artemis he really has an arsenal of AD carry champions he can pull off, and that's one of the key strengths for him, because I think most VCS AD carries are a lot more limited than him.
Okay, so I've got another fun stat to bring up talking about Artemis. Can you, and Tim, you can join in on this one as well. Can you guess what the only champion Artemis has 100% loss rate on, or has one game on and lost that game, is this split?
Is it the Misfortune?
It's not. He actually won both games of Misfortune.
Okay, I mean, then I can't tell you.
𝘀𝗀𝗃?
I can. Yeah, it is a Xayah game. We casted it here. He was like playing very well in the early game, and they just all collapsed against, I think it was Team Secret, right?
So he does have a loss on Xayah, but he also has 2 wins. It's the Tristana, which he has 1 game on and 1 loss on. That game that he lost on Tristana with, he had a 10.1 CS per minute score regardless. So even that shut down, he's still able to get a very high CS. Either way, we can stop talking about Artemis. We can jump on in to picks and bans. Ken and Xin Zhao taken away from the side of Team Flash, whereas Team Flash themselves have banned away the Xayah, Lee Sin, and Twisted Fate from Cerberus.
Yeah, but the Xayah is understandable. I think Artemis is really smurfing on that champion. The question now is, what is the first pick? And he's gonna be the Graves. It might be going towards 𝘂𝗎₀ or Dante. We talked about it. 𝘂𝗎₀'s only winning champion is the Graves. Maybe it's going towards him. We could see the flex pick, and it can of course also go towards 𝘁𝗺, even though I don't really with this champion pool see him playing that, even though I didn't see him playing the Galio.
Please no.
I think mid lane Graves is actually very strong. It's just very slept on, has very good matchups, and we have to see if they go for that.
I agree, but it would be 𝘁𝗺 on Graves, and that's not something I would... Well, maybe 𝘂𝗎₀ can switch to mid lane for this one game and play the Graves in the mid lane. That's something I would rather see than 𝘁𝗺 playing the Graves. And well, let's talk a little bit more about 𝘂𝗎₀ on the Graves, because he actually won his only game on that. It was also a game where his solo kill in the top lane against, I think it was even a Renekton as well, stabilized the game very much for Team Cerberus. And now there's like the 𝘂𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀 coming out for Pan, and maybe this is like where then Team Flash would say, maybe let's flex the Graves still to the jungle. But speaking of the jungle, they picked the Nidalee up themselves, so Ego maybe trying to show Dante, you cannot play Nidalee, I'll show you how to do it.
And I mean, that absolutely opens up the VCS special, good old Renekton once again. But on the other hand, now we might see, yes, we see the Aphelios stash coming in for Team Flash, and it's a bit of a reverse role too, with both teams, one team picking up the Jhin and the Nidalee, of course, and the Jace is getting picked up. So you already have a long range poke comp here to the name of Cerberus, who rather not want to get close in team fights.
And I just want to jump in. 𝘁𝗔's played 1 game on Aphelios so far, which he has lost. So 𝘁𝗔's Aphelios, maybe not something that is amazing, but it does have this PL. We talked about good supports that can go with Aphelios. We talked about the Lulu, the Braum, but the Thresh is another one of those iconic supports that pairs well with an Aphelios.
For sure. I mean, Aphelios doesn't really have a level 1. That's like one of the weaknesses of the champion, and the Thresh can really like help him get through the lane, because he has like so many tools for him. He has the Lantern to really get Aphelios out of trouble if he doesn't happen to have the red-white weapon combination going for him. And yeah, that's one asset Thresh brings to the table. Also, like, his pick potential is so good with the death sentence coming out for him, and also the Flay to maybe like get a target like Nidalee who has to jump in very telegraphedly. Maybe he can just flay Nidalee out if Ego happens to land a good spear onto the side of 𝘁𝗀𝗀 on this Aphelios, and that's like one thing that I like about Team Flash, that this time they actually pick up a bot lane that is a win condition on its own, and also something potentially very strong for 𝘂𝗎₀ with the Grace likely going up against the Jace, and that's also, I remember more correctly right now, because it was actually Graves against Jace in the win they had. It was not the Renekton, it was the Jace on the other side of the top lane.
Yeah,
and the Syndra is open for 𝘁𝗺.
That might be good. I mean, it gives him a lot of early game power. Also, I love the Cerberus ban, especially the Malphite. They understood that in this draft, they already have a massive range advantage, and like Flash is in a horrible draft position. Like, they're already, after the first 3 picks, are in a horrible draft position. They're getting massively outranged. Aphelios is nearly useless already. They need hard engage to close the gap and make Aphelios get into a position where he can actually auto-take. Same for Graves. And I really like the 𝗀𝗊𝗆 takeaway because that could really punish the team comp that Cerberus has put out so far. And it's going to be 𝘀𝗀 to close the gap, but I don't think it's going to be enough. And already I see Cerberus massively ahead if they can find a good mid laner to round out their comp.
Speaking of good mid laners, Vex is being hoverd, and I also see the point. I mean, the hard engage is really lacking on the side of Team Flash. Maybe I also would have preferred maybe like the Wukong instead of the 𝘀𝗀 to really like win the Jace matchup more and be less bullied in the early game by the Jace. I mean, 𝘀𝗀 is a champion that always kind of comes back, but if 𝘀𝗀 is your main engage, something is kind of going wrong because the 𝘀𝗀 usually does not even want to group with you. That doesn't really help your case there, and she's usually a carry on her own and not really like. Her being relegated to your engage tool would be very, very bad. So I'm not really feeling this Team Flash draft either.
It is going to be the Galio mid lane to round it out. I mean, it looks like the reverse roles here from both teams, but the overlay is correct. We can assure you that. I mean, honestly, like the Cerberus draft, they have a lot of range. I want to play on range, and now they have Nautilus and Galio to round it out. It's very good, both offensive and defensive tools for them to work on, and just make sure that the range can be kept, or on the other hand, that once you have landed some poke, you can actually follow up and finish off the kill. So I really, really like the Cerberus draft so far, and I think they should have a huge advantage going into the game. If 𝘀𝗆𝗆 or 𝘁𝗀 can't get massively ahead, I think it's again just going to be a Cerberus dub.
Now, okay, I've got a question for both of you, and it's another interesting stat. How many members from the side of Cerberus do you think have played their selected champion before in the winter split?
At least one, because Artemis probably played a Jhin game before, but I'm also not sure on that. I'm just gonna say 2 from the top of my head.
Okay, Tim?
Yeah, I would guess that. I mean, the obvious champions would be maybe, I mean, Ron, Artemis, and Pun. I would guess 2 out of the 3 have actually played their champion.
Both of you are wrong. 𝘀𝗀 is the only player who has played their selected champion before. 1 game on the Nidalee so far, which they did lose. For every other player on the team, it is a brand new champion. So I'm very interested to see how Cerberus are going to perform with this particular draft. Tim, you already gave your thoughts. Cerberus with a better draft. I'm assuming that means you think Cerberus are going to take this game.
They should absolutely stomp it, to be honest.
Okay, well, we'll be hearing more from you after this game. 𝘀𝗀, I'm guessing your thoughts pretty much agree with what Tim said, and this is going to be a 2-0 for Cerberus?
For sure. I mean, they don't really have like 3 winning lanes with winning jungle, but it's kind of getting close to that. I mean, they have really good matchups in the top lane, in the bot lane. They gave over their fields, but they have good answers to it with like having this high range comp that also can keep the range, as Coach Tim said multiple times. And I think Jado's Galio will probably be a lot better than what we saw from Harvey's Galio in the game before. And let's wait and see if there's something going on. I mean, there's already a level 1 fight in the top lane, and I'm not sure if 𝘀𝗀 should take these, but I mean, it's 𝘂𝗀, and there's a missed shock blast coming out already from Pun, which doesn't speak it, but it doesn't matter, it's still Jace.
He just wins it at
stacked.
This is what happens when you go with Grasp. Now 𝘂𝗀 is going to have to back, teleport into the wave, maybe? It started off so well. It was like, look at me, I've got Grasp of the Undying, I won the trade, and then Pun's like, no, 𝘂𝗀, no. Trade's not over yet.
Trade is not over yet, and I'm really not really feeling well for Team Flash there, because I mean, 𝘂𝗀 is usually their win con. He had a bad start there, and imagine it would have been if Pun also lands that first shock blast there, then 𝘂𝗀 is like on 100 HP instead of 200, and it will be even more of a disaster. Like this, he can maybe recover. I mean, he has biscuits, he has his potions. That makes it somewhat. Yeah, he used both potions already and is not even full HP, so good luck, 𝘂𝗀. But I mean, maybe with some gang setup for Dante, he can still like recover there, because 𝘀𝗀 has a CC with the hookshot wall life at level 3 at least. Dante on the Graves will have a lot of damage. That's like something to do against the Jace, but it certainly won't be easy. And 𝘂𝗀 also, he's level 3 and he hasn't really been contested by Dante, which is something that Dante didn't have the luxury of in the last game.
Yeah, and 𝘂𝗀, spotted out on the Raptors, will be able to clear away the ward, but that is information that Dante now has available to them. Both junglers, starting on the bottom side of the map, could be looking towards a potential early gank on the top side, and Pun has this wave crashing in, so I think it might be hard, really, for Dante to find something on Pun, just because 𝘂𝗀 is going to be stuck under tower.
For sure, and even if not, I mean, the wave will basically just kill them, because at this point of the game, the minions will probably do more damage than the champions, or at least similarly to them, so it won't be easy to find a gank angle there, and Ego knows. I mean, he's on double buffs. He is not quite in time there to steal the blue buff, but he was very short of that, and yeah, it's not really looking good for them. Ego also just there to shadow, basically, Pan, because
Okay.
he expects Dante to be close, and now he just forced him, he was a scuttle, he's just that dominant.
I was wondering if 𝗁𝗏 was going to roam up, but I guess the counter argument is 𝘀𝗏 had Pun, who could have roamed down, having the lane pressure on this Jace. 𝘂cino's playing this wave management pretty well, playing the matchup fairly well, and probably would have gone on Pun as well if it wasn't for the fact that Ego was potentially in the river.
For sure, and Pan is probably in trouble soon enough, because he is very low on mana, and he really needs the mana on the Jace to really like get his damage sticking there, because I mean the Shock Blast and this Acceleration Gate both very high on the mana cost. He can recover some with his Hammer form.
Oh, first blood, 𝗁𝗏!
𝗁𝗏 Syndra, man. I mean, Rebel's not here, so we can actually praise your Syndra this time. And yeah, that's also one win con for Team Flash. If 𝗁𝗏 just pops off again on Syndra, that's like one thing that helps them for sure. And yeah, his Syndra is the only champ he performed on well so far, and here we see it again.
Did he have Ignite? Okay, Yado's just disrespecting, and then the final auto.
Oh no. And yeah, he still had flash up, so I mean, of course, when the auto goes through, he cannot really flash anymore, but beforehand, I mean, you need to either flash the CC or flash before the auto can be in the wind-up time for 𝗁𝗏. That's just not something that should happen to Yado at all. But speaking of which, I mean, in the CS department, he's still more than fine against Syndra, and that already tells me that he knows how to stabilize it despite getting solo killed here. Gonna say though, still solo kill, first blood bonus also for 𝗁𝗏, and yeah, it's also again a 𝗀 against Syndra, and 𝗀 does not have an easy time if the Syndra gets rolling. So let's wait and see if 𝗁𝗏 can do what he could do against. I think it was Team Secret.
It was Team Secret. And it was also in game 2 of that series as well that 𝗁𝗏 had his pop-off game. So maybe it's not ban 𝗁𝗏 Syndra, it's just ban 𝗁𝗏 Syndra for game 2. But that's a taunt coming through. Ego going in, and guess who's there? It's 𝘁𝗏 with a nice lantern for 𝗁𝗏. And it is still 𝘁𝗏 playing in the support role. Pallet not being subbed back in. So Team Flash trying to give their secondary support a bit of game time in this series.
And I'm surprised that he hasn't done such an interesting play as he did last game. Now, jokes aside, with 𝘁𝗏, I'm not really sure why they don't play Pallet, because maybe they just saw beforehand that they play 𝘀𝗏 as the top team and don't expect them to win there. Fun. Oh, he goes for the style play and fails.
Dante flashing forward a couple of autos. Never mind, just one auto is enough. Ego joining into the fray. 𝘂cino waiting for a moment to go back in, but 𝘁𝗏 is here. This is where it matters. Flashes forward, misses the death sentence. Will land the flay, but the hero's entrance comes through. 𝘁𝗏 sidesteps the javelin toss. And that is all that she wrote in the top lane. 𝘁𝗏 went for the play. Good sidestep from Ego.
And it was second shot of disaster for Team 𝘀𝗏. They are playing really cockily. I mean, we also saw like what Pan tried to do against 𝘂cino, where he goes like for the flash auto play on the Jace to get the solo kill there just for style points, and Dante was around, so he gets punished for that. Also the flash takedown coming out from the Nidalee from Ego there, and he gets nothing done, has to take himself out there, just has to run against all this coming out from Team Flash. And they also have to use the hero's entrance defensively. That's something that really triggers me, because you have this tool to use it offensively for top lane dives, for bot lane dives, and here again, even with the guy having some sort of priority, they really cannot really take advantage of that, cannot capitalize on that, because they just go for style plays that are outworking out and have to bail themselves out with such a huge ultimate tool that has such a long cooldown.
So here's that initial engage, and Pun just goes in on 𝘂cino. It's a huge wave, and he does almost get the kill.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta give some credit to 𝘂cino, maybe, because his flash was also very clutch there, but Pan doesn't have to go for this. I mean, he's also fine if he just pokes out the 𝘁𝗏. The 𝘁𝗏 can just watch on the turret and always has to fear that either Ego is around or that he, on the Jace, just lands a good shock blast there to just kill the 𝘁𝗏. And there's no really need to play that aggressively on the side of the Jace. He also should probably know that his team is likely, as long as the game is going well, probably carrying him either way against 𝘂cino there. And he also has a CS lead. He doesn't need to go for this risk there. He just gave up another kill for them. Now Dante is in the game on the Graves, which is something that wouldn't otherwise be possible for him. And yeah, it's not really 𝘀𝗏 playing in 𝘀𝗏's favor there.
In fairness to 𝘀𝗀, he does have himself a nice 12 CS advantage, and that's actually going to be increasing because Yoshino has just cleared out a wave and is going to be crashing towards 𝘀𝗀, so he's going to be able to extend that lead from the 10 CS that it currently is at.
Dante.
Now, Dante, he's waiting for 𝘀𝗀. He's saying, 𝘀𝗀, come back home. 𝘀𝗀 will land the javelin toss, so he can leap to the red buff, which he will do. But Dante is just going to be able to take him out. And Dante is forced to smite to stop the javelin toss, potentially stealing away the buff.
And I really like this from Dante because he doesn't really get tilted by what happened in game 1 here. Now he's the first fight.
Yeah, that's just Engage coming through onto 𝘁𝗏. He will die to the Ignite. 𝘂𝗏 picking up the kill, actually. So it wasn't the Ignite, but he did burn down. And Team Flash almost able to pick up a kill onto Artemis on the backside. But Artemis able to cleanse and able to run his way out to safety.
Good opportunity found there by Unofficial with the Dredge line, but it was still a wet white gun of failures, and you cannot really fight into that much. So they trade only 1-for-1, but it's like a sign of life on the side of 𝘀𝗿𝗏, where they don't go for the in-play and just get at least something going on for them. 𝘂𝗏 gets a kill there, also drops his life there. He gives the kill over, I think it was to 𝘁𝗀𝗃, and like this, it looks a bit more stabilizing for the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗏. And I really like what Dante tried earlier there with the red buff invade and also getting the steal there onto 𝘀𝗀𝗃, because it just shows he's not really tilted from the first game. And now that he got a small lead onto 𝘀𝗀𝗃, he also, on his own, he tries to create leads for his team, and that's something we like to see. Now the full team of 𝘀𝗀𝗏 goes for the Rift Herald, and they have positional advantage there they probably shouldn't have had, because it has been pretty good going on for the side of 𝘁𝗏 here. And but now we see there's maybe something doable for them.
𝘁𝗏𝗃, Hero's Entrance will force a disengage from the side of Team Flash. Rift Herald down to 1000 HP. Who will secure it? It's going to go the way of Team Flash!
What?
They can't steal it.
Did he? He did!
Yes,
They couldn't take up the eyes, so it was actually the Shock Blast sealing the Rift Herald. That is the first Herald. Maybe even 𝘀𝗏𝗏's fault, but he doesn't have the flash, so he probably can't. And I wonder if he would, if he had the flash, because it might actually be worth, because Rift Herald is just so much gold. Let's be honest, probably not. I mean, he would still give up his life and the flash and some time on the map. So, like this, it's just the denial of Team Flash having a good Herald play charge there. And like this, 𝘀𝗏𝗏, I mean, again, just get a little bit more stabilizing in the game now. And I wonder if this really plays into their favor, because Yoshino scaling to the Camille is something that is a scary prospect.
And I want to praise 𝘁𝗀, because I feel that this Aphelios Thresh matchup is supposed to be weaker than the Jhin Nautilus early, but 𝘁𝗀's been able to keep his CS fairly even with Artemis. In fact, it's pretty much even. There's a wave crashing towards him, so he's going to be able to close what is currently a 10 CS deficit down, and he's been able to pick up a kill as well. So 𝘁𝗀 having a much better performance here in game 2.
For sure, and also RT had like this one warming play where he was like saving, I think it was Dante or 𝘁𝗏𝗏 there from the 𝘁𝗀 taunt in the mid lane, and still 𝘁𝗀 is doing absolutely fine onto the Aphelios, and yeah, maybe they heard us, maybe they were like, yeah, maybe Aphelios should be picked up, and now
I was going to say, don't forget the roam top as Yoshino going on to 𝘀𝗀. Oh, he flashes the Shock Blast as well. Yoshino is feeling himself this series, and now he picks up the solo kill onto 𝘀𝗀 again.
Yeah, and I have to criticize 𝘀𝗀 here again. I mean, he doesn't need to go for these risky plays, especially he knows that Yoshino is a very strong player. Maybe it's a little bit of limit testing there, but that's not something you should do against Team Flash when you are having such a close game so far. Maybe that's kind of the thought process, because they are leading 1-0 and are in a series where they are likely to win the game free anyway, but that's not the attitude to have there. I mean, you just don't need to take that risk there. They also give up the Drake on the bot side of the map now, and that is a surprisingly good start for Team Flash.
It's a very good start for Team Flash. But all that being said, right, it's 4 kills to 1. They're 1 Drake up, but they're still 100 gold behind. And that's just all from CS. A 30 CS lead for 𝘀𝗀. Yoshino's been playing well, as we see here, but he hasn't been playing well against the minions.
Yeah, and imagine what could have been. I mean, 𝘀𝗀 is 30 CS up in the 𝘁𝗀𝗃 matchup, which kind of happens naturally. He won the level 1 cheesy skirmish there on the top side as well. And what if he just didn't go for these stylish 1v1 plays that he tends to lose against Yoshino? It would have been such a comfortable game for 𝘀𝗏𝗏, maybe, where they were like a few hundred gold more ahead against them. I mean, as I said, they are 1-4 down in kills, they are still ahead in gold. It could have been so easy, but they just choose to have a little bit of a struggle here.
Yeah, and 𝘀𝗀 saying, you know what, I can't be bothered to wait. I can't be bothered to look for a play on Yoshino. I'm going to just throw my javelin toss out and help you shove this way so we can back and maybe look for plays elsewhere on the map.
For sure, and there's also another huge CS that we might address here, which is the jungle CS gap for 𝘀𝗀 against Dante. Nidalee, very strong clear. Dante on his graves pretty much as well, but 𝘀𝗀 really has been a lot faster there. I mean, you just need to land the javelin and then just go for the takedown. And as long as it's not a camp like the 𝘀𝗰 where you have to like wait for the respawn timers of the individual splits of the 𝘀𝗰s, you can clear them very fastly. And
I hate 𝘀𝗰s.
I hate 𝘀𝗰s too. I don't like to clear them. And we need to address the elephant in the room there, which is the scaling from Team 𝘀𝗀. I mean, they shouldn't really have the scaling because they had like multiple losing lanes there, aside from the 𝘁𝗿 𝗀𝗃 lane, which is somewhat playing in their favor. But with a start like this, with also them getting the first wake, it looks pretty decent for them.
It is looking fairly decent for them. They're now 100 gold up. Still got a few seconds until the tower plates do fall, but I don't think any more plates will be getting secured by either side. And 𝘁𝗀, he's got his CS pretty much even with 𝘀𝗀. 𝘁𝗔 has his CS even with 𝘁𝗀. We don't talk about Yoshino and Dante though.
Yeah, we don't talk now. The Dredge connects here with a nice play by 1OP. He used the blast plant to get over there. I thought he would maybe like hex flash because it looked so delayed, but he has his flash up, so that's not an option. 𝘀𝗀 now misses the spear in the mid lane, and yeah, that's kind of the silver lining for Team 𝘀𝗀. They have Yoshino on the split pusher that shouldn't really get into the game. He's 101, sorry. And he's slowly, I mean, he is down in CS, but he still gets CS on his own. And if he gets like to 2 items with the Divine Thunder, with the Steel Caps, with maybe a Hydra or a 𝘬𝗏, he can definitely do some work here. And there's also like the option at some point that there are failures. If he gets to scale, that he can just absolutely smash these fights in the DPS department, because 𝗀 isn't really that strong in that regard. And also both AP sources, just like last game Team 𝘀𝗀 had them, 𝘬𝗏's AP sources are not that reliable, considering they just blow their one combo and then it's basically done for the fight.
I don't know why Yoshino isn't backing here and teleporting in at the bottom lane, because this could be a first tower going over to the side of Cerberus, but Team 𝘀𝗀 are going to get it in the top lane first. Now Yoshino can back, and Yoshino can TP in to the bottom lane if that tower is still up, which I highly doubt, because Artemis will be able to secure it. So it's a trade of outer towers. Team 𝘀𝗀 getting the top lane tower, Cerberus getting the bottom lane tower.
And the trade also like plays a little bit of help for Team 𝘀𝗀 there, because I mean, they just want to scale here. They are doing decently on the side of Dante and Yoshino, and even 𝘁𝗀. I mean, he had his one solo kill. In CS, he's like a few CS down, but that's not really playing a huge part here. And I just said it, considering the damage split, it's not looking ideal for Cerberus with the Galio and the Nidalee not being that reliable. 𝗀 also, he also is kind of like the champion that just blows his combo once and then is kind of done. But I mean, he's still an AD carry. I mean, he always has some tools to do like high damage in team fights. So is the 𝘂𝗎 with his poke on his side, but it's not as reliable as what 𝘀𝗀 has to offer. And with 𝘀𝗀 going to this game evenly, it doesn't really look good for Cerberus here. And I wonder, they are the top team. They should know how to fight these openings here. And I wonder if they can fight these openings as well in this game, because they certainly need to.
And I want to throw back to something that yourself and Tim were bringing up when we were analyzing the draft. As I have to just hold that thought for a second. Okay, no engage coming through. So in the drafting phase, I believe it was Tim was essentially, or Tim or yourself was pointing out that for the side of Team 𝘀𝗀, you're being heavily outranged by the side of Cerberus, and your only real engage, your reliable engage, is coming through from Yoshino, who doesn't essentially want to be engaging the fights. He wants to be following up. Is there a way for Team 𝘀𝗀 to play around this? Can they just essentially just leave Yoshino in the side lane and then maybe win a 4v4?
I think at some point they can, because they can just somehow turtle at one turret there and just have the 𝘁𝗏 Graves and the failures as a wave clear duty, and then just watch as Yoshino cripples away the turrets on the other side of the map and maybe just assist him in the worst case with a TP by 𝘁𝗀, but usually you should be fine. I mean, on the other side you of course have the hero's entrance to maybe like capitalize on the split pushing 𝘁𝗏, but it's not that easy. Also at some point maybe Yoshino just 1v2s them anyway, as we would like to see from him. So there's also that option for them, but I wonder if Cerberus is like keen enough to force like the right fight if Yoshino happens to split push. Maybe like around the Drake or around the Baron at some point, but considering the Drakes, it looks pretty awful for them. They gave away the first 2 Drakes to Team 𝘀𝗀, so it would be probably end up in some Baron force from Team Cerberus. And then the question that will be asked is that, is Team 𝘀𝗀 cool enough to play out the split push style? Because they certainly need to, and with Yoshino, they have one win con they are already set up for.
if there's one top laner you want to be cool enough to be able to play split push, you'd probably want 𝘂𝗔𝗀 to be playing in that top lane, right?
Yes, but the thing is, the rest of the team also needs to stay cool. Like they need to like
True.
trust 𝘂𝗔𝗀 and also like not in the 4v4. And against the servos that probably like forces a Baron on red side with maybe decent vision setup, it is not easy to stay cool at all.
And we're talking about well, the rest of Team Flash, they're all rookies. This is all their first split in VCSA, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, I'm just going to double check because I'm pretty sure for every member of Team Flash, with the exception of 𝘂𝗔𝗀 and 𝘁𝗁, this is their first split.
Yeah, and 𝘁𝗁 isn't playing, so it would actually
Yes,
be 4 rookies,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. So, yes, how cool do you want 4 rookies to be able to stay against the top team in the league, to be able to stay off that go button or maybe push the go button at the right moment in time? 𝘁𝗁 showing up into the bottom lane, scatter of the week, and the kill is donated over to 𝘂𝗔𝗀.
Yeah, and 𝘂𝗔𝗀 also played really well there. He forced the Eclipse Shield on his own there, and then, yeah, 𝘁𝗁 just needs to land the Scatter of the Week there, and not even that probably, because you can just press the R outplay button on 𝘁𝗀, and they secure the kill there pretty safely. And I'm gonna say, Cerberus at this point of the game, they look a little bit clueless to what they should really be doing here, because they just let Team Flash scale and just make Pan go 0-3, and maybe that was an opening for them. Because
𝘁𝗁, you can't flash out of the way of the dredge line. You just killed your ADC. Oh, 𝘁𝗀's dead. And 𝘁𝗁, that was a bit questionable.
And this is so sad to see, because Cerberus looked really lost there. They really didn't have any plan on how to snowball the game in their favor, but now they just basically get it headed on the silver platter, because 𝘁𝗀 just steps out a little bit too far up there, doesn't use his flash really well.
I don't even blame 𝘁𝗀 for that.
I mean, 𝘁𝗀 just would die there, but Art has to let him die, and Art just decides to die as well to make it even better for Cerberus, and now they just lose 2 turrets on top of that.
I disagree on that, because I think 𝘁𝗀, if he didn't have Art in front of him, 𝘁𝗀 could have just flashed the dredge line, but he thinks he's got his support blocking it, and then his support just flashes out of the way of the dredge line. Like,
oh, that happened.
Yeah, look at 𝘁𝗁. Like,
oh, the pain.
You can't do that.
Oh no.
And then he re-engages and dies.
Maybe the call would be like to have both flashing out there, because they just need to if the dredge line connects to that. Maybe they also had some miscommunication. I mean, it's 𝘁𝗁 playing his first series with someone who's played like his 5th series in the VCS. Maybe that's like where the trouble is coming from. Usually, either 𝘁𝗁 just body blocks it for him and takes the bullet and dies, or you just have both flashing out there. The solution they took is like the worst of both, and basically, so not really feeling that. Also, just dropping 2 turrets there. They are still only 600 gold though, which is the sad thing, because it just shows that Team Flash, especially for their stats, has a very good game, but they just now gave Cerberus an opening they really shouldn't have gotten.
Now, while this was a mistake from Team Flash, I really want to praise Cerberus, because this has been the one real opening they've had this whole game, where it felt like they've been able to make a play and they've been able to come out completely on top, but they've been able to use it so effectively. Now, 𝘁𝗀 does have flash, but he doesn't need it, because he's got a lantern from 𝘁𝗁 this time around. But going back to that point, Cerberus were able to get 2 kills. They were able to get 2 towers as well, using that Rift Herald, and this is why Cerberus are at the top of the league. You give them an opening, you give them an opportunity, they will take it, and they will get 110% out of that opportunity that is given to them.
For sure, and it's still just a 300 gold lead, so it's really not convincing me still by the side of Team Cerberus here, because I mean they still need to like stop the Drake Soul stacking on the side of Team Flash. Luckily for them, it is just a Cloud Soul, so not the end of the world, but they don't really seem to have a clear plan on how to snowball the game. Also, the Jace pick hasn't really come to fruition for them. He is like on the more mana Eclipse power spike very soon. Maybe he can change that a little bit if he gets those 2 items finished there. But I really want to see like the Baron force on them, or maybe like get a good pick angle here by 𝘂𝗁. He tries over and over with his Hex Flash plus dredge line. Earlier it worked, but in general, I am a little bit underwhelmed by what Cerberus has offered so far in this game.
Yeah, well, Cerberus a little bit ahead in the gold department, and right now Dante just on solo, Drake securing duty, and this will take Team Flash on to Soul Point. But as you mentioned, it is a Cloud Soul, so it's not going to be able to give, but the Soul itself doesn't give anything to Team Flash. None of them really benefit from the movement speed after or while using ultimate. Maybe 𝘁𝗀 a little bit in terms of kiting power, but aside from that, nothing at all. But the ult cooldown reduction will be quite nice.
Yeah, will be quite nice. And you also need to enjoy it while you still have it, right? Because with the preseason, that would change. But speaking of that, 𝘀𝗀?
Yeah, well, the engage comes through, and Dante pretty much causes a knock-up on to 𝘁𝗀. Meanwhile, on the other side of the fight, Ego going golden allows the hero's entrance to come through and keep him alive. And for 𝘀𝗏, it's just another kill. And 𝘀𝗏 are just playing these fights cleaner. They're finding ways to engage these fights, and Team Flash don't seem ready to respond.
Well, is it just another kill? Because it is the jungler being down, it is also the 𝘁𝗏 being down, and they can maybe just now look for the Baron here, and just start it, and maybe just look for more kills there. Also in this fight, I liked how the Unleashed power got just stopwatched there by, I think it was Ego, so there really wasn't any damage coming through on the side of Team Flash. Dante just got caught there, and this might be Baron at the opening. That 𝘀𝗏 desperately needed this game. This DP, however, from
Harvey.
This Cat of the Week was mistimed, so he didn't get the kill, and didn't get the stun.
Okay, 𝘀𝗀 spotted 𝘂𝗏, who was trying to set up for a flank. Hook shots in. 𝘂𝗏 goes golden. Good scatter. The weak 𝘁𝗏 uses the cleanse over the wall. 𝘂𝗏 gets taken down. 𝘁𝗀 picking up the kill. Ego flashing over the wall. And now Team Flash say, you know what? Maybe we'll look towards Baron.
Maybe they will know, but I probably think they can't.
Oh, Dante over the wall. He sees 𝘁𝗏, tries to go in. He's hooked. He can't get the autos through. 𝘁𝗏 gets the fourth shot. Dante stays alive. So does 𝘁𝗏. Over the wall. Scatter the weak. Harvey Unleashed power gets the double kill.
Harvey again, Rebel again, gone. So 𝘁𝗏 pops off. This is now maybe the opening for the Baron. Of course, Ego still is alive. He maybe gets a 𝘁𝗏 back in time, but is this maybe the chance for Team Flash to get the Baron here? I mean, they have 5 members alive here. They are taking the Baron up here, and they can just body block the spear, so there's not really a good opening here for Team 𝘀𝗏 to fight this, and this will be the Baron for Team Flash. Maybe 𝘀𝗏 can take the fight here, but it probably
𝘂𝗏's running in. He's going to be able to get a 2-man tall Winds of War. 𝘁𝗀 gets taken down. It's 2 kills. Dante almost able to find the kill onto 𝘂𝗏. It'll be another kill going the way of 𝘀𝗏. They get 3 kills for 1, and 𝘀𝗏 couldn't have asked for much more off the end of that Baron play.
And I spoke to Suna about not being able to take the fight on side of Team 𝘀𝗏, because they had still had a Predator Flash taunt 𝘀𝗏 there, and that was enough to just turn the fight around there. He got a huge taunt there, 3 kills now back for Team 𝘀𝗏. It is still Baron, of course, on Harvey and on 𝘀𝗏, the 2 strongest members of Team Flash, so it's still a scary prospect, but now 𝘀𝗏 at least bought themselves some room to breathe here.
And when you've got 2 members on your team with teleport, you want the Baron on those 2 members, and there we get to see the fail scatter the weak from Harvey, but it's a nice engage from 𝘀𝗏 onto 𝘂𝗏.
For sure. I mean, it was basically just 𝘀𝗏 starting the Baron and trying to force a fight here. I think they didn't really expect to be able to finish the Baron. They just wanted to take a good fight here, and now they just get caught on their own, and this is something that they really should know better to do, because they are in the position to like force Team Flash there, and yeah.
So Ego should have been dead there, actually. 𝘁𝗏 failed. 𝘁𝗏 went to the blast cone with 𝘁𝗀, but he didn't stand in the right position, so he got knocked like directly upwards with the blast cone instead of following over the wall. Because if they did, I'm pretty sure he's in range to hook Ego when he flashes over the wall.
For sure. And now, I mean, they failed really to have like a clean Baron setup there with like forcing the fight and getting the picks, and now, yeah, with Ego dying, or with Ego just being down there, I mean, he didn't die. It was a like Team Flash Baron to take. I mean, the Predator 𝘀𝗏 is of course nice to like get some cleanup kills there, but we obviously see how strong these failures is. They take so much to just get their failures down, and at the end of the day, they use so much on him and don't have enough for the other members of Team Flash. And even in this disastrous skirmish, it was still a...
Okay, Ego's on the flank, and the hookshot just comes in. Hextech ultimatum. Ego being engaged on. Hero's entrance will follow. Scatter the weak, locks down Ego. Unleashed power picks up the kill. 𝘂𝗏 goes golden. Curtains called by 𝘁𝗏. It's a good shock blast to find 1 back. But for Team Flash, they get 2 kills for 1.
Yeah, 2 for 1. Again, in this skirmish, again, the Hextech ultimatum is such an essential tool here for Team Flash, because it always manages to lock down 1 important member on the side of 𝘀𝗏 that Team Flash just wants to kill, and there's really not much that 𝘀𝗏 can do against it, because, I mean, the Hextech ultimatum is pretty ultimate. There's not much you can do against it. You cannot flash out of it, you cannot dash out of it, you just have to survive a few seconds, and then maybe you get out, but probably not even that, because there's so much map control inside of Team Flash in these skirmishes. There's not much they can do to get out of there, and like this, it's again another 2 for 1 for them. And with Drake Soul coming up now, I don't think there's anything that 𝘀𝗏 can do against it, especially Ego just now responds. He will be too late for it.
This will be Soul going over on to Team Flash, and I just want to bring up one more time, and I don't want to harp on too much about it, but I feel that this game is really demonstrating some of 𝘁𝗀𝗆's weaknesses. We saw him flashing out of a dredge line, meaning that 𝘁𝗀𝗃 was dead, and then he re-engaged. We saw him not following on the blast cone properly, and then there was the one at the end, and I don't know what you think of this one, 𝘀cie, but when 𝘂ado's running into the Team Flash backline, 𝘁𝗃's trying to essentially kite back, and he's standing on top of 𝘁𝗃. I feel if he plays more aggressively to get a flay off, yes, he dies, but 𝘁𝗃 doesn't get taunted.
For sure.
𝘁𝗃 then doesn't die.
I mean, as a support, you should be like always in the best interest of your whole team, and the correct play there is for sure to just die and maybe like get even the flay out or maybe the death sentence out to maybe like delay 𝘂ado's engage a little bit so his AD carry survives or his jungler survives in this regard, and he just dies anyway, so maybe just at least have
over the
a
wall,
sufficient
deadly
play.
flush. Oh, it's a 3-man Moonlight Vigil coming through. 𝘂adoP and 𝘂ago both golden, both on a sliver of 𝘁𝗃. Hextech ultimatum looks down 𝘂ado. He'll fall as soon as he comes out. It's a good death sentence from 𝘁𝗃, redeeming himself with a flay. Will not. Dante stepping forward, looking for some damage, unable to find it. 𝘁𝗃 now on the side. It is a 2 kills for nothing. Curtains called. 𝘂ado's taking damage. He needs to get out of range just as a deadly flush almost sniping him down. But it's 𝘁𝗃 who finds a way onto Artemis and picks up the 3rd kill for Team Flash in the fight.
It's 𝘁𝗃 against Jhin again, and Team Flash just keeps finding these good fights. This is a 3-4-0. You really wouldn't believe that this is the last team against the first place team, and Team Flash maybe just not pushing for a little bit of the base. They won't quite end the game here, but it will probably be the inhibitor, I think. Or maybe they just stop now, but now they will take the inhibitor. And this is also, again, such a good thing for them to get the next Baron up, because you will have the super minions streaming into the enemy base now. It will be like very good timing for them. Maybe just now. 𝘁𝗏, they seem desperate. I mean, this TP play probably also won't work out to just catch Dante. Yeah, is it Galio? Oh, with double TP, maybe it is enough.
Teleports. 2 teleports for Dante. It's a good scatter the week. Collateral damage as well will buy some more space. 𝘁𝗏 are desperate for this. 2 members with the blast cone over, and it's a teleport to try to get the Syndra away. And the Syndra just gets out in time, but Dante is probably now fed to the walls and knocked up and taken down. 𝘁𝗏 will be able to pick up 1 kill. But 𝘁𝗏 invested 2 teleports to be able to find the stragglers from Team Flash.
But to be fair, the death timer is really long on Dante, and he won't be up when the Baron is up, and this might just be, despite all the desperation on the side of 𝘁𝗏, be enough to maybe even swing it back in their favor, because, I mean, you play against rookies, maybe you can get their coolness off with plays like these, because they need to play against a 𝘁𝗏 team that will likely start the Baron and will
This is way too aggressive from Team Flash. This is a 2v4, and sure, 𝘁𝗃 is here. Unleash Power's not going to be enough to kill 𝘂ago. 𝘁𝗃 now running off on the backline. Flash forward from Artemis. 𝘁𝗃 have the damage, but he does enough as 𝘂ado's almost dies to the minions. Has a stopwatch. Someone needs to answer this from Team Flash, but no, he might die to the minions anyway. He needs to kite back for dear life. He just can't answer the minions, but it does mean that 𝘁𝗏 have to back. They have to recall to prevent these minions from pushing in. Dante now back up, and the Baron is anyone's for the taking.
And here we see the rookie just coming out from Team Flash. I mean, 𝘂ado's does his best to like prevent all the stuff happening on the other side. I mean, we talked it over and over again, like with the Camille split pushing being like the sole win condition. Can the rest of Team Flash stay cool? Just now they showed that they kind of didn't, but 𝘂ado still makes the best out of it. Gets a solo kill there. Threatens to take the Nexus turret there and just survives with a sliver of HP. Really well played by him, but we also saw earlier the desperation coming out from 𝘁𝗏 as they use 2 TPs just to chase Dante off and then start the Baron. They win the fight, but not even that cleanly, because 𝘁𝗏s can just do so much, and here we see 𝘂ado again, I mean, on the Camille. Also, unfortunate situation for Pan, of course, because Camille is just that much of a champion in the late game, but it is kind of his fault that 𝘂ado even got so far.
Yes. And now, he doesn't even have the CS advantage. CS is dead even between the pair of them. And don't forget, Pan 𝘂ado, they still don't have their TP available. 𝘂ado will soon, so he can just play in the side lane, which is exactly what he's doing. Someone has to answer him, and whoever answers him won't be able to teleport in for a possible Baron power play.
Will be really interesting to see. Maybe also now is a point where Jace can still do damage again. He has a separate Fang completed now on his side. He is on the 3-item power spike run. With 𝘂ado on the other side, you always have to like be afraid of the potential backdoor play coming in. His TP is not quite off cooldown, but will be soon, and it is now a standoff where Team Flash can really prove themselves, because if they manage to take this game, they really show that basically any game is maybe winnable for them. Even if they are a last place team, beating a first place team would be one hell of a statement for them. And now 𝘁𝗏 maybe with the flank. Lantern is a good ability.
I just want to say, I've been saying that this Team Flash has been showing potential from, I think, the first series or the second series, and now we're seeing Yoshino really coming into his own. We're seeing 𝘁𝗵 on his Syndra. Sure, 𝘁𝗏 hasn't been performing great, but it's been enough to match 𝘀𝗀𝗔's. 𝘁𝗏's just going to be able to take Yoshino out of range. It's so many! Oh my god!
So much to talk about at one point, but 𝘂o just now steals the Baron as it's the 4v4 play coming out from Team Flash. Might I say 4v3? Yeah, you were too busy casting the play picture-in-picture fight where they just chase Yoshino.
I thought Baron was done. I thought it was over.
Same actually, but now I see like, why are there wet announcement plates coming in the spectator client? 𝘂o must have stolen the Baron. This is kind of illegal. He gives over his life for that, but this is so worth for CS service, of course. I mean, it is Baron, and also 𝘀soul and Elder now just comes up.
Okay.
They have to fight against Baron up when
They're going in. They're trying to find the pick. They don't care if they have Baron. If they don't have Baron, they're going to get the kill onto 𝘁𝗏. Now it's a 5v3. 𝘂o's still dead for another few seconds. 𝘁𝗏 needs to be able to land a death sentence. Hook shot coming in. They're going to lock down Bud. Hero's entrance will be able to follow. It finds a 2-man knockup, and 𝘀𝗏 going to be able to run out to safety. 3 members of 𝘀𝗀𝗔 with Baron, but Team Flash are pushing in the mid lane. Just one inhibitor down. The inhibitor tower and inhibitor still standing in the bottom lane. But now there's an Elder up. 𝘁𝗏 is dead. It's a 5v4. Team Flash don't care if they don't have Baron. And 𝘁𝗵 is looking for the flanks. He's looking to stop anyone who tries to approach the Elder Drake.
For sure, and they can watch this Elder Drake just now down, and there's nothing that 𝘀𝗏s can really do against him, despite having the Baron. Also, Team Flash knows they have to face check into this.
𝘁𝗵 just gets a kill on to the Jason Dante, looking towards 𝘀𝗏. They're going to be able to get a slow. They're going to be able to get the kill. Team Flash, I think you've just done it. Teleport coming through from 𝘁𝗵. He's just reset, looking to rejoin the fray. It's a 4v3 right now. Pun and 𝘀𝗏 down for 𝘀𝗀𝗔. Whereas for Team Flash, it is just 𝘁𝗏 who has fallen. We never really got the big 5v5 fights, but Team Flash have done everything they've needed to. 2 Nexus towers standing. Artemis will cleanse after the week. 𝘁𝗔's low. The minion wave's not there. And 𝘀𝗀𝗔, they're going to get one more lifeline.
I mean, the minion wave was there, but they really couldn't do much with it because it wasn't Baron empowered, and the Baron was still on the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗔. I mean, the Elder is, of course, a very strong fighting tool. They get the 2 kills there. 𝘁𝗵 just instantly exploded Pun with his unleashed power there, and I think the unleashed power alone drops him almost under the threshold of the Elder executed, so it was really easy to do for him. They also knew that 𝘀𝗀𝗔 was coming for the Elder, but they were too late, of course, because you cannot really rush it against I mean, you can rush it with the Aphelios, so there was nothing that 𝘀𝗀𝗔 can really do there. It was really obvious play. That Pun would be there, so 𝘁𝗵 gets the kill there. It wasn't enough for the finishing play because the minion wave is really thin, and there's still wave clear on the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗔, even if they lose 2 members, because they still have the Jhin, they still have 𝘂oO on the Nidalee. It is not impossible to just clear this out. And like this, the game prolongs a little bit more. Gotta say, the Elder buff does not have a high duration. It's only 1 more minute, and 𝘀𝗀𝗔's Baron just now expires, so there's a 1 minute window where Team Flash is really, really strong. And maybe they follow fight in this regard, but probably this Elder will time out.
Do you remember yesterday when 𝘁𝗏𝗵𝗶𝗹𝘀 beat Team Secret after Team Secret got Elder?
I don't.
Okay, well that happened yesterday. And I'm just wondering if 𝘀𝗀𝗔 win this game, would that be more ridiculous than the 𝘁𝗏𝗵𝗶𝗹𝘀 win over Team Secret? Because that was a series that Team Secret could have taken 2-0 if it wasn't for that mistake effectively. And I feel like Team Flash are in a similar situation, being the underdogs in a series, and they're ahead 7k gold, but we know how good the team fight of 𝘀𝗀𝗔 can be. We already highlighted the issues with the Team Flash draft, but I'm just worried. I'm just worried for Team Flash. Rookies on the team, 4 rookies. The pressure.
Deservedly so. And also 7k gold is not that much anymore. I mean, it's 37 minutes into the game. What really is 7k gold? I mean, only the scaling really matters, but the scaling is also playing into their favor. It's just now closing a game out that is their game to lose, basically. They are the rookie team, and now the curtain call maybe did some damage to them. Jhin, of course, when he casts the curtain call, very vulnerable to anything that 𝘁𝗵 does. We have seen this time and time again in this series, and also in the one game where 𝘁𝗵 destroyed people on Syndra. And I wonder if Team Flash has the guts to do it. I mean, if they can remain their composure and close this game out. They just down 2 inhibitors on the side of 𝘀𝗀𝗔, so they should have permanent map control here. The Baron should be theirs to take. And I wonder if 𝘂oO can get another miracle steal, because he might need to.
he might need to be able to get a miracle steal and then do another miracle steal at the Elder afterwards, to be honest. But Cerberus right now, they are on the back foot. They're 8,000 gold behind. And Team Flash looking, well, we say Ego needs to make a miracle play. Team Flash are trying to do a miracle series, beating Cerberus. They're 0-4. Cerberus are 4-0. This is not part of the script.
Why did 𝘁𝗵 just teleport? I don't understand why 𝘁𝗵 just teleported, because he could just walk the distance he just now did. I think Team Flash is doing some very uncharacteristic mistakes, because they are not used to be playing from ahead very much. They could have saved the CP for some other emergency, but I think they just really want to be there and evade any chances to magically get caught somewhere by one of these Nautilus hooks, because they have been not on point so far this series, but they might be at some point.
I think it's just while the wave is pushing in the top lane, they just want to be able to get the tempo, maybe to push in the bottom lane. Maybe that's why they went for it. But you say uncharacteristic. Yeah, they're uncharacteristically ahead. 𝘁𝗵 goes golden. It stops the depth, the charge from coming through. 𝘁𝗵 takes so much damage. Yado trying to take 𝘁𝗵 out of the fight, but it's not going to be able to do so. 𝘁𝗵 stays alive. Yado will fall. Yoshino stops the rest of Cerberus from engaging, and no one from Team Flash is dead just yet. Yoshino alive on a sliver of HP. He takes another tower shot. It will pop the Guardian Angel, but Team Flash will clean the fight. It will be 4 kills for 1. 𝘁𝗵 will fall at the end, but Team Flash take us to game 3.
What a desperate engage was that from Team Cerberus. They don't get any kills there. There wasn't really much to do from them afterwards there. And Team Flash rewards themselves for having a good composure as a rookie team there, having a scaling draft, winning in the early game basically with it, and not making too many mistakes to really drop the ball there. I mean, they had like some moments where it was like far from clean, especially with Ego getting the steal there. But overall, Team Flash can be happy. As the last place team, they are still better first team in one game, and it's all up to a deciding game 3.
All up to a deciding game 3. We're going to be jumping on into a short break. During the break, as you can see, the Team Flash hype train behind me is empty. I'm hoping to be able to recruit a few more people onto the Flash hype train. We'll be seeing you guys on the other side of the break. Stay tuned to VCS English. All aboard Team Flash hype train. They take down Cerberus in game 2 and they pull us to a game 3. 𝘁𝗵, Tim, let's have your thoughts on that game, because Tim, was that a case of Flash playing well, or was that just Cerberus not playing to their win conditions properly?
I think Flash played okay. I think Cerberus had a few issues. One, I think first timing for champions did not look great. Let's start with that. I think please stop picking 𝘁𝗀. The champion literally has less win rate in the VCS than Renekton, and it's probably one of the worst champions to pick, especially in mid lane. Please stop it. Also, the players that have been picking him, they can't play him. Like, they don't know how to play the matchups. They obviously don't know the idea of 𝘁𝗀, where you trade HP for priority, because they never get priority and they never roam. So it's wild. Like, please stop it. And then, I mean, bot lane Artemis, was okay on the Jhin. He wasn't sprinting nearly as much as top lane did, but he didn't look great either. It wasn't anything like the last game on Ophelia. So I think just go back to comfort, go back to champions that you can actually play, and I think it might be much better for Cerberus here.
For sure.
Sorry, go on, 𝘁𝗵.
And also, like, I mean, I got really triggered by this first hero's entrance that 𝘁𝗀 used. I mean, it's such a huge cooldown. It's not like with the Nocturne ultimate in the jungle, where like the first ultimate has to like be like resulting in takedowns for your team, but like having it to use defensively because you went for a cocky play before just tells a story about how Cerberus approached this game. Because I mean, we saw like Pan winning the 1v1 at level 1 against the 𝘁𝗵, which could have been like game over already to some extent in the top side, and then he just goes for this style play that absolutely fails, and I'm just triggered by it. I don't know. The 𝘁𝗀 pick is not really working out for any VCS team, and it's kind of ironic that they are so unknown how 𝘁𝗀 should work despite playing it so much. It's kind of ironic.
Yeah, and so far, Yoshino has been playing out of his mind this series in both games. Like, if the series ended here, for me, he's quite easily MVP of the series, right?
Yes and no. I think he's been playing well, but I also think that his good lane opponent is griefing really hard. Like, no matter how well you play this matchup, there shouldn't be a way. And I'm sorry, I think my alarm just went off. 1 second.
No,
Gotta be back.
Good morning, Tim.
It's the alarm of oh no, Cerberus, you need to wake up. This is all part of a simulation. This isn't a scrim. This is actually for the VCS. 𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀.
That was
Artemis.
the 𝘀𝗀𝗃𝗀 alarm.
Was that the Galio? Time to stop picking Galio, guys.
Time to stop picking. No, sorry for that. I just wanted to say that Pan has to start playing League of Legends. I mean, please. Like, this guy was or is a good top laner still, but when you haven't, like, Jason to Camille already is a good matchup, and then you win level 1, and then you lose the matchup anyways. Yeah. That doesn't happen. Like, if you play, or if he plays the right way, no matter how good Yoshino plays.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go over to Artemis. Now, last game, well, game 1, after game 1, so like 1 game ago, I guess, I was talking about how Artemis is not only the best ADC in the league, he's the best player in the league, he's really consistent, and he always...
It's all your fault.
It's all my fault, because that's not what happened to Artemis in game 2. What was the issue, do you think, for Artemis? Because he had the Jhin Nautilus, which in my books is the stronger matchup, but he couldn't get ahead.
I mean, it's just a stronger matchup, and yeah, he couldn't get ahead. I mean, he couldn't get ahead enough, I would say. I mean, it was basically like an even lane for him, and if you do not get ahead with this pick, you just get brutally outscaled by the Aphelios, who can just laugh at your damage, and as long as you don't just get for free 4 shots with the Jhin landing into the Aphelios, he can just do more in the team fights than the Jhin does. He has so much more to do. He can hit multiple targets at once. He has such insane DPS, can just heal himself back up, and he's also not as easy to dive as a Jhin is, and that's why Artemis, in this game, it was, like, I would say, to one half, it was like the agency of the Jhin pick, but on the other half also, this was certainly an off game for him, I would say, because usually you would expect him to get ahead in this matchup, especially if the enemy support Artie, who was also roaming a lot in the early game. If he's going away from the lane, he should be like 𝘀𝗀𝗃 there, and he just wasn't.
So, Tim, would I be right in saying that this is a PAWG series? Not a POG series, a PAWG series. PAWG. 𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀𝗀𝗀 win game.
Yes. I think... It's hard to say. I think you can counter Aphelios, and I think actually what Cerberus has drafted should have worked against Aphelios. But the problem is that I wouldn't agree that Artemis actually has to get ahead of this matchup. I think that Thresh and Aphelios actually have an advantage. I think Aphelios is really underrated as a laner, especially early on with a ranged gun. You have a very good laning phase. So I think the pressure that Artemis can put out is very limited. But his team was running it down, so he had to get ahead. It was either him getting ahead or lose, and I think with that, we're jumping into the next draft, and we're jumping into a Syndra ban, and something I really like to see.
Surprise, surprise, Harvey Syndra has been banned, 𝘀𝗰𝗶𝗃.
Yeah, and Cerberus is back on blue side, which is also something that maybe plays in their cards. Blue side 100% win rate so far in this series, but also 100% win of the series is the Aphelios, and that's something Team Flash got again. So Aphelios fresh again for them. It is again blinded basically into the whole comp of Cerberus, and I wonder if the approach from Cerberus changes now, because just only did with the range advantage against Aphelios that didn't quite work out, and now Xayah would be open, but no, they go for the range approach again and pick Caitlyn. So yeah, it will probably be similar to the game 2, but now hopefully with less cocky plays on the side of Cerberus, because that just didn't do them any favor.
And Tim, we saw this Caitlyn from Cerberus against 𝘀𝗀𝗏, and it worked really well for Artemis. Was able to get an early lead, and as I think it was Rebel who was alongside me in that series was saying, there was no Caitlyn mid game. It went from early game to late game.
Yeah, I mean, that is how Caitlyn works. You have a very limited mid-game because you don't have an attack speed boost for yourself. Like most other hyper carries, for example, Jinx has her Q, basically. So I think that is a problem. But if you can get ahead with Caitlyn and can start opening up turrets and get farm leads, then you suddenly are in the position where you have such an item lead over your opponent that is basically no mid game, and that's always what you kind of want to have as Caitlyn. That is the ideal game for you. And I think with Lee Sin and LeBlanc, you have two very good mid jungle champions that can support you in that task, that can set up dives for you, and that could just be very similar to game 1, where they ran over, where they multiple times dove the bot lane, and they can just play the same game here.
Now, 𝘀cie, Tim, I want you to put your hand together. Oh dear Lord, who art in heaven, please don't let Team Flash think to pick a Galio counter-pick into a LeBlanc.
I have the same feeling actually that they picked Galio again because I mean Lissandra is banned, LeBlanc is also outside of Yano, and maybe just 𝘁𝗵𝗋 hasn't gotten enough spanking from game 1. I mean after game 2 he maybe just feels confident again to pick it, but I mean please don't pick Galio, please pick something more
play
interesting.
Orianna, play Zoe.
Play 𝘀𝗶𝗶𝗃 for once because that champion hasn't been picked up at VCS at all. I think the matchup against LeBlanc wouldn't really favor you, but I just want to see 𝘀𝗀𝗋 once, okay?
Yes.
I really like that pick. I think 𝘁𝗀𝗋 is really good because now it limits every melee champion you can pick, and you are outside of Caitlyn, everybody is very attackable by the 𝘁𝗀𝗋. Alistar overall is a good answer, of course, because you can break the shield, but with a combo. But I hate Alistar. I mean, this champion is just into Thresh. It makes it so much harder. Why do you pick like a hyper laner in Caitlyn and then you don't pick something to support her? You pick an Alistar that, I mean, probably Aphelios Splash will have priority in this lane, especially early on, if they can abuse the level 1 from the Alistar. So, I really don't like it. And the Gwen pick up for Yoshino. Carry champion for him.
Another banger by Yoshino, maybe. I mean, Gwen is good against Camille, especially if it goes a little bit later. The Gwen just does more and also can teamfight better than the Camille, so I like that from him. And we have just seen time and time again that Yoshino is the star player of this team, deservedly so. Just now 1v9 the other game, or maybe 1v9 is maybe underselling 𝘁𝗵𝗋 and 𝘁𝗃 a little bit. But he has definitely carried that team, and Gwen is of course one pick that can absolutely do that.
Now, I really like looking at the Team Flash draft, not the Cerberus draft, because when I look at the Team Flash draft, I don't think VCS win to split. When I look at Cerberus draft, if I remove Artemis, because Artemis is Artemis, that looks like a VCS draft, especially if you put in a Jhin or Misfortune, which probably every other team in the league would have done. But Team Flash, it feels like the clock's been wound back to like the middle of season 11. Gwen, Viego. I like this. Do you like it, Tim?
I think it's great. I mean, if you plug that into the World's Finals, I think the series between EDG and Damwon, it wouldn't look out of place at all. I think it would have. I mean, the Viego wasn't enabled, so that is a question mark, of course. But I think overall that's a great draft.
Was Viego disabled?
Wait, was it? No, I'm griefing. My bad. I was
Akshan.
confused. Yeah, I was.
Auction.
Yeah, Akshan, both. I was confused. There were so many champions disabled, I can't keep up anymore. So I think it is a great draft. I really have to agree. I think you could plug it easily into mid-season, into Worlds, and it wouldn't look out of place. And on the other hand, I think Cerberus draft can work. I think the Alistar is a question mark, but they have a lot of early game and they can just snowball the game similar to game 1.
Okay. What about you, 𝘀cie?
I echo that statement completely. I think Team Flash has a really good meta draft by now. They considering the draft looked more than fine. Cerberus draft not quite convincing to me, but I mean, considering the individual players, I would still not just say that Team Flash outright wins this game, but they definitely have the tools up there. But yeah, Cerberus still with the individual players likely will take the win here.
Now, I think it was in one of the earlier series this week. It was either Cerberus against 𝘀𝗀𝗋 or it was 𝘀𝗀𝗋 against Team Flash. Either way, it was with one of these two teams, where I think we were heading into a game 3, and we essentially said Cerberus or 𝘀𝗀𝗋 had a much worse draft, but they had the advantage in the early stages of the game. And that's exactly what they were able to use. They were able to snowball a huge lead, and there was no way back in. I'm pretty sure it was Cerberus against 𝘀𝗀𝗋, and it was game 2 of that series, I want to say. But I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I mean, neither. And as we know, of the VCS, better draft always loses, so it's not really looking great for Team Flash. Anyway, TP and
Ignite. Last game? Wait, no, it didn't.
No, not really. It did.
Okay,
it didn't really. It was win lane, win game for Cerberus, and they just didn't snowball. So can't really say better draft won last game either. And we are going to a short pause, I think. But no, I wanted to.
Oh, okay. I've been told that I have to sit down. I was thinking I'd stand up through it, but no. I've been told to sit. I'm a good boy.
Okay.
this gives us more time to talk about the game, the draft, the stakes for both teams, 𝘀𝐶y.
I mean, the stakes are pretty interesting, right? I mean, it would be 5-0 for Cerberus if they win this, and if not, it would be a little bit embarrassing maybe even for them. I mean, you start 4-0, you play against a team that is 0-4, and this is where you start losing games. It would be very, very funny. And for Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ, of course, I mean, coming into this week, I had this hot take in the chat while we're doing the Good Morning Vietnam podcast. My hot take was Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ will win a series this week, and 𝘀𝑒x was just laughing me out of the room, basically, despite me not being in the room.
He did that to me as well. He did that to me as well. When I said Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ, Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ looked pretty good. They're going to get a surprise win this week. And, I just got laughed at. Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ aren't that good. I'm like, they're fairly good. They can play well. But no.
I just gotta say, it's not as black and white as some people may point it out to be. And what I wanted to address before we went into the pause was TP Ignite on both top laners in very explosive matchups. And we have seen in 2 games so far, it does favor Yoshino quite a bit. And that's one way in, of course, for Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ, despite the good draft that they have their carry top laner against someone who doesn't even want the summoner spell flash. And maybe that's also something that Dante might consider paying a visit up, because that's usually one of the counterplay against TP Ignite 𝘀𝐾𝑒𝑚ille. You just gank that. She has the hook shot as a defensive tool, but that's basically all she has.
Don't you love it when both top laners have teleport and ignite? Giga aggression we can be seeing on the top side of the map. And for some reason, I just started thinking, you could compare some of the teams in the VCS to 𝘚𝑎𝑐 teams. For me, 𝘚𝑠hy is definitely a Misfits, fan favorite kind of team, doing well in the early stages of the split. We'll see if they can continue that. Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ for me is more like Origin or now Astralis. They were good like 2-3 years ago, and now that they're not so good.
That's a bit sad, right? Because Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ is actually a champion, and Origin Astralis has never been. And Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ falling off hasn't really been their fault, right? I mean, there hasn't been some mismanagement. They were basically getting screwed by COVID, not allowing national or international competition for them, and that's just the sad reality of it.
Is Team 𝘀𝑠�h CLG?
I don't know. I mean, they have likable players. They have a clear win condition in their games. That's also really something that pays a huge contrast compared to CLG. So I really don't like these analogies at all. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something we will find, but not quite sure.
We can drop the analogies for now, and we can start focusing back on the game, because we are seeing the top side 𝘁𝗏𝗏 was picked up by Dante, whereas Ego took the bottom side 𝘁𝗏𝗏, and Dante is going to try to sneak his way into this top side and not be spotted out in the process, and just wait for an opportunity to go in onto Pun, who...
Sup?
I'm just like, no.
You're speechless, yeah. And understandably so. I mean, we have had a good run so far in the VCS, right? I mean, there have been a few small tech pauses, but that's completely normal, especially like on a day one, on a week one. I usually was surprised that there were so few pauses, but now we are getting back on track, and maybe just we need to have more pauses to get like back on the normal average level of pauses per day we have had in the other VCS splits. Speaking of that, though, this pause has also been just a very short one, because we are getting back into the game.
We are getting back into the game, and we kind of missed what happened. Okay, Pun playing aggressive. Oh, the Spectral Maw snipes Pun down. He can take the hook shot, but the Ignite ticks, and then the red buff burn gets the kill instead.
And that was what you addressed earlier, like with Dante sneaking up there for the lane game and just get it going there. TP Ignite 𝘀𝐾𝑒𝑚ille is very vulnerable to ganks, and just now we see it. I mean, she could use the Ignite offensively there, but that really wouldn't really do much, because you cannot even dissuade them there. He would just burn away anyway, so it doesn't even bother to use that. And that's, again, another edge now for Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ. It's also the first blood going over to Yoshino, who can do probably the most of it on the Gwen. And I'm smelling an upset there. I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, Team 𝘀𝑠ℎ, they've got the momentum with them. Oh, the Spectral Maw. Beautiful. I just want to get... The Ignite is ticking down. Okay, red buff burn more OP than Ignite, I guess.
Oh, true. You just corrected me. The kill didn't actually go to Yoshino. It went to Dante instead, who, of course, on the Viego can also do a lot of it. But, Yoshino on the Gwen would probably have rather had it. And, a lot of burn damage for Yoshino and Dante there that Pun had to face. Maybe he could get another shield proc there if he manages to auto attack once in this combo, but he basically had to run anyway, so there wasn't really much for him to take there. Now he is now in an awkward spot because he probably doesn't want this wave to not bounce it to the turret there, and Yoshino attempts to freeze him there a little bit, but 2 minions won't freeze the wave there, so he's probably fine anyway.
Yeah, well, there's only 2 minions, as you mentioned, so it's going to be slowly pushing back towards a punt, and we'll have to see how things do develop. As on the bottom side, things looking fairly even as well. 𝘀𝘀, though, already getting a nice CS lead, which is to be expected whenever you do run with a Caitlyn in lane. If you don't get an early game lead in the laning phase, then you're probably doing something a little wrong.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just a small CS lead, but definitely a welcome one for 𝘀𝘀. Here, it's also almost a 2v2 kill, and 𝘁𝗀 was looking around, maybe going for the dive here, and not to just get Ego as a backup there. Jack can just chase them away. They won't get kills here, but they will force another wave down, maybe even turret plates, or maybe I spoke too soon, actually they get kills. Oh! Good denial.
Ignite ticking down, and the kill will come through. Hook under tower. 𝘁𝗀 will only take 1 tower shot. Meanwhile, on the top side, Yoshino gets another kill. So, Team Flash have said, we don't care about bottom lane, we just care about top lane, and we will murder Pun over and over and over again.
And that seems to be the right call, because Pan has been struggling in the 1v1 alone so far. Now he just gets dove on the turret in the 7th minute, and it's just the second death of him now. Also a huge wave he's losing there, so Pan is really not set up to success here at all. He also respectfully stays under turret there and still cannot get out. He also has the hookshot wall drive available, and it's just not enough. I mean, the TP Ignite really causing more harm than good for him so far.
So, Team Flash leading by 500 gold. Ego, though, with control over the bottom side of the map, with the ability, or with having 2 strong bottom side laners of the LeBlanc and the Caitlyn, has pressure for the Drake and is able to pick up that first Drake of the game, which is an Ocean Drake.
And maybe that's something that really plays into their cards, because early Ocean Drake is really nice to have, especially in the laning phase. You can do a lot of that region, you get extra. And Caitlyn against Aphelios was a great lane already, and now it's a little bit more in the favor as well, because the Caitlyn, even if she happens to take some damage, which is a rare occasion because she usually just plays around her superior auto attack range, can actually heal back up a little bit through this Ocean Drake and will be smashing this lane even harder than she did so far. And now this wave, it will probably be like a 12 CS lead or something for 𝘀𝘀, maybe a little bit more. And I wonder how this plays out, because 𝘀𝘀 this game probably has to carry again, since Yado will probably get denied a lot by the Nether Grasp from 𝘁𝗀's Malzahar, and Pan against Yoshino is really in a mismatched matchup there. And maybe they're out.
Okay.
Trample coming out.
Yeah, 𝘁𝘀 being caught out, forced to Flash to get out of range of the trample. It does mean that Team Flash don't give another kill over to Cerberus, but it is a summoner spell down for the Team Flash support.
Definitely so, and maybe now they go for
engage. Oh, Pop will go 𝘁𝗀. It's a decent death sentence, and now the Nether Grasp under tower will pull 1 kill back. But can Team Flash potentially look for more Yoshino here as well? This is a 4v4, but it was an ADC for support trade, so I'd favor Cerberus in this particular trade.
For sure, I mean, the AD carry does a lot more in this point of the game, and yeah, you can just take first Herald now, which is really big on the side of Cerberus, if they actually can secure it, because
Team Flash ain't giving this one over.
No, they definitely want to fight it.
Yado with the ethereal chains. Dante going on to 𝘀𝘀. Piltover Peacemaker takes Dante down to nearly half HP. Double distortion comes
Hex
through.
Flash.
Hex Flash. But 𝘁𝗀 is here as well. He's got the red and white guns and can potentially turn the fight around. Dante's taken down, and so is 𝘁𝘀. But what can 𝘁𝗀 do? It's all tanked up. The Moonlight Vigil tanked by 𝘁𝗀, which will keep the rest of Cerberus alive. But look how many chakrams 𝘁𝗀 has available to him. And while Team Flash may have lost more members, they have priority around the Rift Herald as Ego, able to steal away the 𝘁𝗀 and then kicks Yoshino out to keep himself alive.
And Team Flash is probably okay with this fight. I mean, they got flanked by the Hex Flash, Headbutt Pulverize combination of 𝘁𝗀 and still managed to trade 2 for 2 there. Just speaks to how good that composition actually is. And Aphelios at the end of the fight could get his white weapons there with the chakram. He managed to create a lot of zoning control that really prevented Cerberus from getting in there much. Ego also very late on the Dragon's Rage didn't really were able to use it earlier here, and like this, the Herald can be stopped, and this really plays into the cards of Team Flash. Here we see the fight again. Now the Hex Flash comes out from 𝘁𝗀, and he.
I want to see the tank of the Moonlight Vigil, because someone tanks the Moonlight Vigil and it saves the entire team. I think it was the Yado clone. Oh, it's a
Yes!
phone. That's huge.
Yeah, very huge. It was very short of disaster there for the Cerberus. They dropped the Herald anyway, gave it over to Dante because the reset timing was just better for Team Flash here, and it's looking good for Flash again. I mean, they are even in gold. They have the Herald, which will likely get them at least some turret plating money for them as well. The 𝘁𝗏, of course, is again very ahead, which is, of course, a strong win condition on the side of Cerberus, but so is Yoshino on the Gwen, and I'm really looking forward to seeing who can stabilize better, if it is Pan against Yoshino or the other way around. 𝘁𝗶𝗹𝗀 in trouble.
𝘁𝗶𝗹, he's going to go golden, but he's going to die as soon as he comes out of stasis. He's going to flash, tries to drop down the nether grasp, but it is not enough. Artemis almost falls to the tower shot. He teleported in, and Artemis just unloaded everything onto him. There wasn't really any counterplay that 𝘁𝗶𝗹 could have even done.
Hey, not counterplay, but maybe you could just save his flash or his ultimate there, because using both and not getting anything out of it, far from ideal, of course. They lose the first turret race against the Herald, which is, of course, expected for them, but Artemis likely will get the turret on his own on the bot side. There will likely be a second Herald charge, which might cost Cerberus even greater, and Yoshino doesn't really have much standing in his way to even push further here. It will likely be a tier 2 turret even. I mean, what can Pan really do? He's weaker in the 1v1, he's fighting, if he's fighting, on the dying turret here, and this is not something I would recommend him.
This is how you want to play around a Gwen. Now, Artemis has been able to get a tower. The last time Artemis played 𝘁𝗏, I think he got something ridiculous, like 9 tower plays, maybe even 10. He got so much gold. He was so far ahead in CS of his ADC counterpart. That was 𝘁𝗏 from 𝘀𝘀cie. Okay, this time he's got some tower plates. He's about 15 CS up on 𝘁𝗀, but it's not as huge of a lead as he had in the 𝘀𝘀cie series.
No, for sure not. It's not as one-sided as we have seen in the other game, and I'm really wondering what really Cerberus can do with what they have available for them. But now it is the Ocean Break. They are 400 gold down, and this Gwen's just getting strong. I mean, the weak part of Gwen was basically right now, and it's slowly starting to be over in the top side, because she just now completed the steel caps and the Rift Maker, so she will probably start winning the 1v1s even harder than before. She will just leech off the enemy carries, because she can just heal up with the Rift Maker. As the more damage she does, the more she heals, and if you cannot really one-shot her or kill her in one combo with good CC setup, she can just dominate these fights, even do a lot of AoE damage, and this is something the 𝘁𝗏𝗀 cannot do. So Yoshino favored in this regard as well. This is now also the first Drake coming out for Team Flash, and this brings us to a situation where no team can really rush the Drake Soul, and it might just be a long game again, and this is something that definitely plays in Team Flash's cards.
Okay, Cerberus up ahead for, oh, pardon me, they are still ahead by a couple of 100 gold. Team Flash have been able to secure the Infernal, and we have our third Cloud Rift of the series. Not another one, but this time, for the side of Team Flash, actually it's not too bad, because Yoshino could definitely do with the movement speed when he uses that ultimate.
And a weak soul in general is something that also favors Flash. I mean, with the scaling comp, you're usually more prone to give over more Drakes, and if it's just a Cloud Soul, what is there really there to snowball instead of Cerberus? I mean, you basically just rely on the Baron, because the Cloud Soul just isn't gonna make the cut. Who is maybe making the cut is a Gwen, of course, because she has big scissors. But Yoshino, I mean, we see it here. The Cloud Soul would be really favoring him. With the needlework, usually can make good use of the movement speed there. And yeah, Cloud Soul in this regard is a double plus on the side of Team Flash for sure.
Yoshino's going to get another plate. Meanwhile, in the top lane, Artemis is just taking up all of those beautiful tower plates for himself. He's pretty much going to get the tower too. So, okay, it wasn't quite 9 plates for Artemis this game, but I think it's probably around 7 plates that he was able to secure. Oh, the engage is coming through. It's a good play, but now the 𝘁𝗏𝗏 can really start doing its work. A good death sentence, and Pan will fall. It's 1 kill for nothing in favor of Team Flash. Meanwhile, Artemis, he's just still on the top side of the map now, stealing away the Krugs, getting the top wave pushed in, and will now reset.
And this is exactly the problem. I mean, 𝘁𝗏𝗏𝗀 landed a good headbutt pulverize combo there, but without Artemis, they cannot really fight. I mean, the only really lead they have is onto Artemis, and without him, they're even down in gold against what Team Flash has to offer. And with the 𝘁𝗀𝗏 Nethergraph, there's so much reliable lockdown on the side of Team Flash, and what can Padang the 𝘁𝗏𝗏𝗀 really do? He's 0-3 right now. He doesn't really have the magic wisdom to survive the damage from the 𝘁𝗀𝗏 itself, almost, and now in this situation, the whole team of Team Flash can just free fire onto him, and there's nothing he can do. He doesn't have a flash. He just now completely Divine Sundoer, which means he has a little bit of sustain, little bit of HP, but nothing more than that. 𝘁𝗏𝗏𝗀 in general in the early game not a good team fighter anyway. And Pan, I don't know if you can even fight the Viego.
𝘀𝗶𝗹𝗀, considering 𝘂𝑚𝑒 was right there and 𝘀 didn't have anyone nearby, but I guess he was just banking on the fact that Team Flash didn't know where 𝘂𝑑𝑜 and 𝘂𝑟 were on the map.
For sure, and we see the CS difference in the top lane. I mean, it's more than 30 CS now. It has already started not so well for 𝘀 with the lane game coming out from 𝘀𝗏e, and maybe we need to talk a little bit more about 𝘀𝗏e because he is one of the rookies who has shown some kind of promise, but not a lot when he played 𝘁𝗏 against Team Secret, for example. But this series, I mean, after this very rough early game in Game 1 or Game 1 in general, he really managed to stay cool and manages to find some good moments for him. But just now, 𝘂𝑟 forces him out again, is a level up on him, and 𝘀𝗏e needs to stay cool again this game. And if he can do that, it may just be a winnable series for Team Flash.
Who got it? Okay, 𝘂𝑟 is able to smite the red buff down. I'm surprised that Team Flash didn't fully commit onto that. But going back to your point on 𝘀𝗏e, he is, I believe, the one jungler that at least we here at VCS English have not given a single MVP point to. So the way our system works anyway is at the end of each series, the three of us on the hosting desk, on the analyst desk, we give our top 3 votes essentially, and those are collated at the end of the season. 𝘀𝗏e is yet to receive a single vote, so not first, second, or third from any particular game.
Oh no, this is so awful. Maybe I even just give him 1 point anyway, just so there's not a 0 in the
Just gonna
column
give him
there.
a point now, aren't you?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on the game. I mean, if he now solos loses the game, then of course not. And also, now that I think of it, last game he had like the Baron steal against 𝘂𝑟. I mean, 𝘂𝑟 got the steal against him, which doesn't speak in his favor very much. And just now, as I remember, I was very close to giving it to him over. I think it was over 𝘁𝗏, but 𝘁𝗏 definitely deserved his point for playing the lane well against 𝘂𝑟temis, who has been our very highly praised AD carry or player beforehand. You called him the best player of the VCS, and then he had that game against 𝘁𝗏. I mean, 𝘁𝗏 definitely earned his point there. But anyway, second herald now going down for Cerberus, and it's just a second herald, of course. Team Flash not that interested in it, and gold basically even, and we are looking for a long game again.
And I feel like going back to 𝘀𝗏e, yes, he's nearly 40 CS down on 𝘂𝑟, but he played so heavily towards 𝘂𝑚𝒈 in the early game, and that's exactly what he had to do. He played it well as well. He got 2 kills on to 𝘀, and from there, 𝘂𝑚𝒈 now has control of the lane. That's what you have to do in these top lane matchups sometimes.
For sure, the control alone means so much for Team Flash. And
oh, that is a nice nether grasp, and it is 𝘀 who is dead again. That's 2 times he's been caught out by the nether grasp. 𝘂𝑚𝒈, with a bit of needlework, seeing if he can get some more damage onto 𝘁𝗏, but unable to do so. And all the while, 𝘀𝗏e is just going to start up on this Cloud Drake, and it will be the second Drake going the way of Team Flash.
For sure, and it's looking really good for Team Flash again. I mean, they are heading Drakes now, they're heading gold as well. The nether grasp seems to be a very important tool now for them to work around. They also will force a QSS tax on the enemy team, but this will also be a little bit worse for them.
It's a decent kick. The tower is gone. 𝘁𝗏 will fall. 𝘀𝗏e's going to take too long to get into the fight, and it is a beautiful engage from 𝘁𝗏 and 𝘂𝑟 that get 2 kills on the side of Cerberus. And just like in Game 2, they're able to get a tower, and they're going to get a charge onto the inner tower, and they're going to be able to take the inner tower down as well.
They keep charging. They know they are on the time here, I think, because they just keep forcing this. And maybe also to 𝘂𝑚𝒈, he's also flashless, remember?
Yeah, 𝘂𝑚𝒈 is just trying to clear this way, but he's going to die in the process. 𝘂𝑟, I'm pretty sure that is the mirror image. The engage comes through. 𝘀𝗏e's going to fall as well here. What is this play from Cerberus at 18.5 minutes into the game? It's a flay coming through. 𝘂𝑟 taken down low. Nethergrass, they get the kill, but the inhibitor tower has fallen. Team Flash on the chase as... What?
This looked wrong. I mean, 𝘂𝑟temis just clicked one button on his mouse. It was the right one, and just now he gets the kill to 𝘀𝗏e there. And let's speak about this mid lane engage from 𝘂𝑟 and 1OP. It was just so sick, actually. I mean,
headshot?
It probably was a crit headshot, and yeah, just completely a 𝘂𝑟 can die. I mean, it's probably the Divine Sunderer 𝘂𝑟 who has like some HP, but not a lot of resistances. He takes a lot of damage from anything. Wasn't really high on HP either way from the skirmish, because he almost died to the ignite from 𝘀 there, who was again diving very hard. But this time I can actually understand. He created a lot of zoning control and bought some time for Cerberus to finish the 3rd turret in the mid lane there to open the base up for Team Flash. And let's take it back to the mid lane engage, because that was really well played by 1OP. Headbutt pulverize, the inside kick from 𝘂𝑟 also into 𝘀𝗀𝗃, who on the Aphelios had the red-white weapons, but it's too early into the game where he can just leech off all the targets and just win the fight 1v5 or whatever he was planning to do there. And he didn't really have any way out there. And this just got 2 quick kills for Team Cerberus there. They also could take on the mid lane tier 1 turret, of course, with the Herald charge there. And they just kept going there. And Team 𝘀liche was really caught off guard by that. Even Yoshino died there. Unluckily, the shutdown went over to 1OP. You cannot really do much with that on the Alistar, but at least you get the kill at all, which is something that's probably very nice for Cerberus. And now there's a literal opening for them on the map now, and maybe Cerberus looking good again.
I think I've got an idea for Team 𝘀liche. If Harvey stops ulting Pun and starts ulting Artemis, that could work. Artemis gets another kill. Teleport coming through. Dante kickback. It's a knock-up on to 𝘀𝗀𝗃, the turnaround. But look at 𝘂do waiting to come over the wall. Ethereal Chains won't connect. It's a double kill for Artemis. It's a 3v4. 𝘀𝗀𝗃 low engaged on Ego gets the kill. And now 𝘂do will return. Ethereal Chains gets the lockdown onto Yoshino. 3v2. Pun joining into the fray. And it is 2 team fights in the space of a couple of minutes. That Cerberus just wiped Team 𝘀liche, and now they've got a 3.5k goal lead and probably can just take a Baron.
That's a 5-4-2, and this will result into the Baron for sure for Cerberus. I was thinking for a second maybe they can end because they killed every single member and they already pushed 3 turrets there, but that was not quite it because Ego and 1OP died, but they definitely died to... They died for a greater cause, let's put it like that. And it was just Cerberus out team fighting Team 𝘀liche there. I saw a very good Dragon's Rage kick from Ego there to just knock up multiple members, deal a lot of damage in the skirmish. Dante maybe with a Miracle Steal. He doesn't have an MVP point yet, and he's a second too late.
He is just unfortunate. Dante's gonna die as well. Lockdown, can't get over the wall. Team 𝘀liche needs to find a way to get onto Artemis.
And here we see no MVP points because he is just that desperate to get like a single thing going for him here and didn't really find anything. Gives away another kill for free. The Baron was already gone. He still goes in on the Vega for whatever reason. I don't quite understand it. And Team 𝘀liche just now, maybe that this is the rookie jitters, right? I mean, the game was in their control. Let's be honest. I mean, they had a much better draft, a much better scaling draft. They went even slightly ahead there. And just
why are they ulting Ego?
And they are still ahead. They are... And Cerberus is back in, and Artemis on the Caitlyn. I mean, he's untouchable. He always gets the kill. He gets so much damage
untouchable,
here. He's over the wall.
He's untouchable because Harvey ults Ego instead of Artemis.
That also helps, yeah.
Right, if Harvey ults Artemis, I still have some faith in Team 𝘀liche. If he doesn't ult Artemis, then yeah. Actually, out of curiosity, who do you think has been more influential this game, Ego or Artemis?
This game actually, I'm a very huge Artemis fan. I think we should all know that by now. But in this game, Ego, honestly, I mean, he made this mid lane play that actually opened up the game for them. He's 1, 2, and 12. He has technically a negative KD, but he's the playmaker for this team. I gotta maybe put up the question, maybe it's actually 1OP over Ego, but it's definitely not Artemis, despite Artemis being 905. I'm very high on this player, but this game, he basically just had to right-click and be the follow-up damage for his team. He also played the team fights well, for sure. Let's not cut him some slack that it's not deserved, but actually the playmakers should be the highlighted players here, and that is definitely Ego or 1OP if you happen to be a support main.
Yes, well, I am a support mate, so maybe I'll have to give 3 points over to 1OP. But Cerberus in control, and they are showing their experience. They're showing why they are at the top of the standings. And despite Team 𝘀liche showing promising signs in Game 2, showing promising signs here at the start of Game 3, Cerberus' experience coming in on top. They're going to pick up a second inhibitor, but look at Yoshino waiting to come in on the flank, but he gets spotted at 1OP, just goes in instantly onto him, and Yoshino will go golden, and again, it is a Nethergrass, but it is not on Artemis. And somehow the ace in the hole finds its way onto Dante, who is on the run. Cerberus are just going to wipe Team 𝘀liche in this fight. There is no hope for them. It is just 𝘀𝗀𝗃 and Dante left standing. It is 3 kills for nothing for Cerberus. And this game was looking close for quite a while. But then Cerberus win 3 team fights back to back to back. And now it means that the Nexus will be pretty much open in a few seconds' time. Distortion forward. Ethereal Chains do connect on to Dante. But 2 members, make that 3 members, will not be able to defend against the 5 of Cerberus. Cerberus will take down Team 𝘀liche. And Cerberus will continue their win streak in the VCS Winter Split.
Good draft from Team Flash, good start from Team Flash as well, but if you give them a finger, they take your whole armor. Cerberus with a lot less clean game than we expected against the bottom of the standings team in Team Flash. Team Flash, however, I mean, they can probably be okay with this, considering what we expected from them. They start 0-5 now, Cerberus with 5-0 on the other end of the table, but it's not over for Team Flash, I would say. I mean, there's definitely a series they learn a lot from, and they have shown that they can put up the task here, can fight back against these top teams of the VCS, and yeah. Cerberus, however, they are just clutch. I mean, gotta give credit where credit is due. 𝘁𝗏 back onto a champion that is not Jhin. Maybe that's better for him. And with this, Cerberus, yeah, in a not so clean fashion, manages to defend their top standing of the table.
Yeah, and we can bring in our analyst Tim back. And Tim, it feels almost like you can make a bit of a flow diagram and say, do you want to play strong top side and weak bot side? Could that work? Maybe. Are you playing against 𝘁𝗏? Yes. Don't do it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, what surprised me is how 𝘀𝗏 and 𝘁𝗏 started winning lane at level 1, which they should be absolutely getting smashed. Overall, 𝘁𝗏 on the Caitlyn just gapping bot 1v2 for half the time. Like, 𝘀𝗏 wasn't even doing anything. He was just standing around, or not even being bot lane, and still 𝘁𝗏 was just gapping them. And I think that is a lot of the story of this game. They gave him Caitlyn, they gave him a champion he could really just smash lane with, and he did. And in the end, I think that was a large part of it. Again, topside didn't look great for them, but it didn't matter because bot lane is just a better lane.
And 𝘀cie, what can Team Flash take away from this series? Because they had the 2-0 loss to Gam, but it didn't feel like a stomp. And again, they've had this 2-1 loss now to Cerberus, but again, this felt like a series that maybe they could have even won.
Yeah, I mean, the takeaway from that is, of course, that Yoshino is still their best player. He definitely can 1v9 games for them. Also, 𝗁𝗏 on the Syndra is maybe something they may fall back to if they ever have the chance to pick it. And in general, though, aside from the Syndra, which is maybe like more of a band-aid fix, they can definitely... They at least have the draft going for them. I mean, they probably just... with nameplates off, it's probably one of the best VCS drafts we have seen this winter split so far. Of course, not that many games played, but I really like that style. They went for the Malzahar countering the LeBlanc, the good top lane matchup they got going for them. They picked Viego because Viego is a good champion. And aside from the Jhin, I was very, very high on this draft for the side of Team Flash. And yeah, they have good drafts. They have a very, very reliable solo laner, and one solo laner that definitely can also pull his weight if he's on the right champion. So it's not all over for them. And they also play Team Secret again. They play BTS, I think. And maybe against those teams, if they have the draft and a start like this, they can definitely take games and even the series.
And to go back to you, Tim, there seems to be this constant issue with the side of Team Flash. And again, is that inconsistency with having so many rookies on the team. How do they essentially get around those inconsistencies to improve for the remainder of the split?
I think it's just practice, right? You have to practice and work together and learn to work together better. And I think it comes down to just improving communication and making sure that they play more through macro and less through individual outplays, because I feel like the macro is okay, but nothing to behold. I think they were usually out macro by other teams, and overall they mostly came, or their wins or overall skirmishes just came through individual outplays by players like Yoshino, by 𝘁𝗏, and I think they have to start relying less on just individually outplaying and relying more on just also having a good macro, because that gives you stability and that makes sure that you don't have to go for 50-50 plays continuously to stay in the game.
And now we can kind of turn our attention towards the winners, which we should give them a bit of a spotlight. Cerberus, again, they're showing that they aren't a perfect team, and they showed this in week 1. But that, along with that, also is an opportunity for them to show how well they perform when they are in worse scenarios, how well they bounce back after they take a loss. And 𝘀𝗀cie, again, this was another display from them where they didn't have the best start to the game in Game 3. But again, 𝘁𝗏 and Ego, actually, most specifically, able to make so much happen for them.
For sure. I mean, on the positive side, they just showed how clutch they really are. But I also want to touch a little bit on the negative side, because I don't think we can let them get away with that. I mean, they just now got outdrafted by the worst team of the league on paper and both standings wise, and they just basically just relied on the mechanical skill and to win some individual flips to even win this game. And as a top team where you have like the best champion pools, likely this shouldn't happen. I mean, you should be able to have a draft that is up to the task, and you should not be relying only on individual outplays to win the game. And that is what they just now did. And if they do this against a team like 𝘀𝗀𝗃 or like 𝘂𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃, I don't think they get away with that. Or even against 𝘀𝘀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, your favorite team, this probably will not work.
Okay, well, with that, I think should we give an MVP for the series to 𝘀cie𝗰𝗶𝗹𝗀? 𝘀cie, I'll let you go first.
I'm still on the ego hype train considering this, because I was just really impressed by this one flash kick where he just got the 𝘂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 out, who was still on the red Y weapons. This is, he was very important there. You could also like maybe argue 𝘂𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, but he wasn't really doing much in the laning phase. It was mostly 𝘂𝗃𝗃, who would probably be the other candidate I would have for the series, but I would still prefer ego.
Tim?
I mean, I think for me it's 𝘂𝗃𝗃𝗃. I think whenever he is doing great, the team is doing great. Yes, 𝘂𝗃 is a big facilitator, and 𝘂𝗃 had good plays, but I think if 𝘂𝗃𝗃 can't carry the team, it's not going to happen. Yes, they have a good mid laner in 𝘬𝗏, but especially 𝘁, I think, has been massively underperforming. I mean, he has been smashed by 𝘂𝗏. I think for me, the three candidates actually would be 𝘂𝗃, 𝘂𝗃𝗃, and 𝘂𝗏. I think 𝘂𝗏 played a great series, even though they lost. I think he was the large part. He won every top lane he played, and he consistently outperformed. And I think he is somebody to watch in the next series as well.
Okay, well, thank you both for your thoughts on this series. We're going to be jumping on into a break, and when we return, we'll be having our second series of the day as 𝘀𝗀𝗃 take on 𝘂𝑠BTC Esports. Stay tuned here at VCS English.